at 6. I will call to order the monthly village board meeting, board of trustees. Roll call.
Campbell, here, Cox,
Here.
Warner, here, Roscoe, here, Berto, here, White, here, and Bell.
Here. Okay. One change I want to make to the agenda to there are staff waiting around here would be to move item 15 ahead of item 14. So that we can go into executive session and then let Concha and all go. It would a motion to approve agenda as amended?
Question,
Yes.
is our human resources manager not coming into closed session?
I believe she did not want to.
I said you could have me in closed session. You guys have said that you don't want me in closed session.
I'm that no, that's
If you're discussing the evaluation,
my understanding is that you would prefer not to be at that.
no, I would prefer to be there. I was told by personnel when we started this process that you guys didn't want me there.
Two different subjects,
Okay,
two different subjects, that quite frankly,
okay,
yeah,
So yes to what?
yes, I would like to be there.
Okay,
yes, to discuss the process, she would like to be there.
Okay. so I still would say let's put it in that order and then staff that does want to leave at that point can leave. Thank you, Denise.
So Lynn made the motion, is that right? Second.
Motion by Roscoe, second by White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public.
Minutes, please.
Oh, the approval of the minutes. From June 20th, 2023.
I just have a small typo on page 8, line 14. Adjustments are likely to be made in the future.
And you didn't catch the one that I messed up on page 14?
Oh,
That's okay. I'll fix it.
well, you caught that one.
I'll fix it.
Okay.
I've got one page 13, line 18. The refers to me as Nate, but everybody else refers to me as Bell.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
This one has to get one here.
Motion to
Motion to approve the minutes.
as amended. Motion by White, second by Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, comments, correspondence, concerns from the public.
All of the correspondence included in your meeting packet, which were emails from Rick Ronvick, Mitch Onosorg, and Ron Fritz, had to deal with short-term rentals. There was nothing else received after the packets went out.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment? Okay. And 6, County Supervisor Dave Leno's report. I believe Dave is not able to, is having internet issues. So we will go past that. Then we, R27, presentation by Door County Economic Development Corporation, Michelle Lowry. Hi, Michelle.
Good evening, President Bell, Administrator Stelzer, and staff and trustees. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I'm just going to take a few minutes. I know you have a full agenda this evening. So I appreciate the time at your public meeting to introduce myself and provide a few updates on the Door County Economic Development Corporation activities over the past year. So I am Michelle Lowry. I am the Executive Director of DCEDC since May of last year. So I've been working in various parts of the economic development world for a little over 20 years. And that includes regional and local organizations like DCEDC, but also directly for cities in Arizona and a village like yours in the greater Madison area. So I'm very familiar with municipal-based economic development as well. So DCEDC traditionally creates a strategic plan on a 3-year basis, and 2023 marks the first year of that 3-year cycle. Based on the board's framework of priorities, the organization created the 3-year plan that I distributed, and I have copies for the public available here. I'll leave them if they're interested in that. The plan is based on objectives and key metrics around 4 strategic pillars. So I just thought I would go over them with you very quickly. The first is business advancement and advocacy, and that's kind of our bread and butter of the organization, and it's to provide programs, initiatives, and services that support the success of all businesses in Door County, regardless of area or size and sector. This is where our workforce development and business retention efforts lie. So in the past year, we focused on a lot of student engagement in the workforce, because we know that in recruiting workforce, we have challenges that I'll go over in a bit, housing, as you very well know, but other things too. So we know that really starting with the students and that workforce that's already here and is familiar with Door County is a great way to go. So we've been engaging students in Door County industries with manufacturing month tours, but also a high school job fair that we had that was very successful this March. It involved more than 550 students and 43 businesses from across all parts of Door County and all industries. So it would be for hospitality and seasonal, but also for manufacturers and financial services, healthcare, and the like. So we had 61% of those employers that actually felt they would have a direct hire from that. So we felt that was a success and look forward to doing that in other parts. That was in Sturgeon Bay. And it certainly did encompass all of the school districts, but we really look forward to having one in Northern Door as well coming up here. So we continue the
Question.
of course.
Was that for people who live for students who live in Door County, or was that for?
It was,
Okay.
and with the manufacturing tours that we had, we actually included Algoma because they were very interested in doing it too. So we did involve some Kiwani students as
Cool.
well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And just another update on the Door Kiwani legislative days. We engaged business and community leaders. We had 60 attendees, a little over 60. Half of those were students. And they were really the stars of the show. So what we do with that organization or with that event is we bring Door County residents and businesses to Madison, and they actually champion 6 issues that are championed by a steering committee, and those have to do with our very key efforts that we have in the, you'll keep hearing me say, childcare, housing, workforce development. So that was successful, and some of those did end up certainly passing with some promise in the governor's budget that had legislative approval too. So we were happy to see that. Certainly not all of them, but some of them did. So we were happy to see that. One of those is the Youth Apprentice, the extra money for the Youth Apprenticeship Program, which has grown tremendously in Door County. So we were happy to see that. So our second pillar is entrepreneurial growth, which is to encourage development, growth, and sustainability of entrepreneurial endeavors in Door County through the creation of an ecosystem. And now that, again, as I talked about students being kind of that low-hanging fruit of workforce, really the same thing with growing our economy is those who want to start businesses here. And I know we certainly have those in the room who have done that. But of interest is really folks in the Midwest. Wisconsin ranks very highly in terms of, in the Midwest in general, but Wisconsin ranks very highly in startups. And so that's something we certainly want to enhance in Door County. So we provide individual assistance to businesses throughout Door County, from completing business plans to helping with site selection and also helping with financing. So as your administrator knows very well, we have some revolving loan fund programs that we work on with businesses, and we've been able to help very many of those in Door County. So I look forward to the fall where we're going to start holding a series of classes. We had a renovation in our conference room, so it was expanded and it is allowing us to really have more classes there. But I look forward, and I've talked to the town of Liberty Grove as well as doing something north, so that we could do more entrepreneurial classes, or at least make sure that businesses know that we're a resource and actually hold them here. But also receptions and things to get businesses engaged. So that is something I look forward to doing for entrepreneurs, and we certainly have them come from all over, yes.
So I think that some of the new board members may not be aware where Julie came before she was in the mayor, so I just want to make sure that everybody understood that Julie was with DCEDC before we got.
My
here.
apologies, I
So
got,
just so everybody up here knows.
I'm so sorry about that, President Bell. Yeah, and my apologies, I got I was fortunate to work with her crossover just a few weeks, but yes, very, very helpful to DCEDC's mission. So thank Julie for that. Third is sustainable living, and those are the issues that we are really so fundamental to a lot of communities, most of communities across the nation, but certainly here on the peninsula, and that's housing, childcare, and broadband. And let's see, we have our broadband coordinator here, but those are the three big issues that we're really looking to work on. So one of the new ways that we've been doing that at DCEDC is to really look at the ALICE population. And so we know, and that is the asset limited, income constrained, employed. That's what those stand for, if you don't know. But that is something that I'm on the board of United Way, and I've been working with United Way to really say, okay, how can we partner? You have the direct connection to a lot of folks who are in this area. How do we help them to upskill to become employed in areas that might enhance their economic standing, or to address some of their issues that we have? And so, you know, really economic development is about people. And so getting those individual and then also having group efforts to do that is something that we're really interested in doing. And that's something we're working toward with United Way and with our other partners at We Are Hope, which is another organization that helps connect folks, dislocated workers, to opportunities and skilling to those. So, you know, those are the fundamental issues. I know you have certainly made strides in dealing with housing as well as childcare solutions in Northern Door. And, you know, really accessibility to transportation is another one of those that we look forward to working on. That's critical to folks being able to have access to services, but also to be employed. And so all of those barriers to workforce are what we're trying to address here in sustainability. So housing, childcare, all those things that take folks out of the workforce. So we want to make sure that they're able to do that. So lastly, communications and engagement, and to provide effective communications to partners in Door County and engage them all in programs and messaging to external audience to attain success collaboratively. And our internal partner and community communication objective is the essence of why I'm here with you tonight, and why I'm introducing myself and providing an update and ideas. And I'm sorry for not visiting with you before in my year of experience here at DCEDC. So I'm very happy to be here now. But I'm working to communicate more broadly with the Door County community, but also externally of what are the great things that Sister Bay and all our other communities are doing to address some of these things to promote what Door County is all about. So on external front, that is something that we want to focus on and getting that out into the larger press. So this fall, in the future, just to address that for a second, we're implementing our new committee structure coming up here, and that's in the back of the strategic plan. There will be so many more ways to participate in DCEDC efforts. But we also look forward, I met with Administrator Schmelter this last week, and we look forward to, you know, spearheading some events that have been successful in other parts of Door County to Sister Bay, but also to ensure that businesses and entrepreneurs can take advantage of our services. So thank you again for giving me just a few minutes to meet you and to address you and to give you a quick update, and I look forward to any questions or comments you might have.
Question, so going back to communications and engagement, have you ever considered facilitating communication to people with language barriers?
Yes, that is something we are working on. One of the things that we're working on, that I am a part of the county's diversity, equity, and inclusion group. And we're really looking to, how do we do that to language barriers? And it's language barriers, but it's also other barriers. It's ability, barriers and those type of things. So absolutely, we're at the very beginning of doing that, but that's something on our minds, certainly. Thank you for bringing that up.
Michelle, have you partnered with NWTC in Sturgeon Bay, and then do you have any partnerships coming up with, the NWTC here?
Yes, Louise, thank you. And I'm so glad you spoke up, because I did want to say, and I didn't mention this before if I could, that I really enjoy working with your staff, and certainly Julie, but I also appreciate working with your community and Louise Helsa for sure, with this Sister Bay Advancement Association. And we've been working together since I've been here for a year and kind of sharing information and working with the community business associates. So yes, NWTC, I work both in Sturgeon Bay and with Stephanie Paddock here in Sister Bay. So, and you know, what's really exciting is the shared kitchen opportunity, which I'm sure everybody knows that is always full, unless it's a different season, but we have people just breaking down walls to get in there. That's one thing. Certainly with opportunities for upskilling and trade, but also one of the areas we really want to tap into, and I know Julie is doing that with Do Good Door County, which is one of our tenants in our building that we have in Sturgeon Bay, is really matching some of the retired folks with opportunities, and NWTC, their program for doing that is really great too. So that's one of the kind of the areas we want to get into. Did I answer?
You did, yeah, and I'm wondering, because NWTC here, for the trustees that are not aware, had a limited number of workspaces
Yes.
that are booked for the rest of the year.
Yes.
And even the large meeting room, someone booked it for 6 weeks.
Yes.
And so, which is great, and at a nominal fee, but NWTC, the organization, is really not interested in, and that's fine, they're educators, but not interested in growing that. I mean, first of all, it's a finite amount of space, but we could really use more of that. First of all, we're fortunate that we have Spectrum here, and so the connectivity is pretty good, and we're on a couple of sides. We have communities that are not. Now, fortunately, broadband, thank you, is coming our way, but we still have people that need the space, and not just seasonal people.
Yes.
There are people that maybe just want to work somewhere else besides home.
And our
So that would be terrific if you could partner with.
to get more space, like
Well,
co-working space.
yeah.
Okay.
It would be, I know.
Okay, yeah, we would love to do that.
So if that's an idea they're thinking of, or if there's a business that's thinking of it, or a business that has the space.
Well, that's certainly an option. And one of the things that Julie and I talked about, just last week was the developer tour, because I do have some housing developer interest in Sister Bay. That we garnered from a tour that we had a little further south. And so that's one of the things we talked about is being able to sell maybe in the fall, Sister Bay for developments that are going to be conducive to what you're looking for, housing, also maybe some commercial activity of that sort. So, yes.
So something that I had seen in DCDC, and this has changed over the years, and the pandemic kind of paused everything, is it with everywhere, is DCDC have been rather Sturgeon Bay centric for many years. I'm glad to see you up here. That tells me that it's not so Sturgeon Bay centric and you're continuing that trend. So I thank you for that. No, Northern Door County is a big economic driver for the entire county. Without Northern Door County, the county wouldn't be what it is.
Absolutely aware of that, and thank you for saying that. It's absolutely true, and we're really kind of fighting that sturgeon-based soundtrack feeling, and I know we've been doing that for a while, but yes, absolutely need to be out present, and so I'm so glad to be here today. And thank you, John. Thank you very much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. I really appreciate all these some things, and I just really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8, I am going to recuse myself and step up in the audience, so this is not Julie.
Okay. So item 8 is resolution number 2023-008, amending the committee bylaws and fire board compensation.
What you were broadband.
So you want to take it back?
Yeah,
Want to recuse
Okay.
ourselves?
no, I'm sorry. I thought I misread that. I thought we had that above there. I'm not gonna recuse myself on this one, but I got ahead of myself there, just trying to be careful. Okay, I'll let you take it, I can do it.
Okay, so the fire board currently is not compensated, whereas all of our other committees are. So, this resolution basically would change the committee bylaws to say that the fire board members are compensated. It would be retroactive back to their appointment in May, so if they had 2 meetings or 1 meeting, regardless, we would compensate them for that time that they had spent at that meeting. To do so, we would need the resolution and then also to amend the bylaws. The bylaws, it's a very, very simple amendment. It's just a matter of putting an asterisk in front of, or I'm sorry, following the word fire board in our committee list.
Why was this not stated in the past? It just was an oversight, or is there a reason?
So there's an ordinance, I think in the past we have paid them. But there was an ordinance back in 94 which talked about how the fire board members not be paid by the board. And then when we talked to Liberty Grove does pay their fire board members. We've gone back and forth paying them, not paying, I think probably paying them most of the time.
All the
Denise, you've been
time.
on there
All
all
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah.
So
So
it's-
back in 94, have no idea, the document came up, it was an ordinance, you have to deal with an ordinance.
Yeah, so it's, I think it's just cleaning it up, making it
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
So we know moving forward, we've taken formal action to make sure that the fire board members are paid. It really, I view it as a cleanup action.
I thought when this came up, you said that we had to have Liberty Grove do something too. We can just do this on our own and it's.
No, just on our own, we don't
Okay.
need the legal.
And why is the Tourism Zone Commission, they don't have a asterisk either?
Because the Tourism Zone Commission, unless it has changed, isn't trustees, we don't have trustees on there.
Oh,
It's, it was always, I think right now it's Louise, myself, Lily, we've never had a trustee on there before.
Rob was on there, you know, he's
Yeah, Rob's
president.
there.
You're right, Rob was on there. I don't know, I've done it that way.
Maybe it started out that way where there were not trustees. I can't remember all the committee appointments since the inception of the tourism zone.
Yeah, and it has changed too, you know, this year we added a 3rd member, so. Cause I know I've always been on there, I know there's been discussion about having Louise on there, and then. When we had to add a 3rd, I think is when we added Lily, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
or when we started having that conversation. So I think it just didn't come up because we've never.
Well, then
I
it should
was
be added here. If that committee doesn't originate with this board. That's the tourism zone.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
wondering, should we add an asterisk there too?
Actually, I think that's a really, I'm sorry, but Heidi makes a really good point. I think the way you've done it in the past, and I have to look at this, is if it's one of our committees, we try to pay them. Okay, if it's one that I believe if it's not one of our committees, you have not been paying. But that's not true either, because it says here you pay Door County Coastal Byways. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the reason why the Tourism Zone Commission was not paid was Rob probably got it for being chair, but we've never had a trustee other than Rob, I think.
Oh,
Well, we should, good, it's pretty common sense.
I mean, if we wanna change that, we'd have to amend the resolution, and which we can do on the floor. And then also amend these bylaws. I think, so just so it's clear though, that it would just be for the trustee to be paid for that. If you do that, just looking through here real quick, the ones that are not paid are, just for information purposes, are people that attend Green Tier Legacy Committee, unless it's the chair. Marina Fest. And which means Don, you don't get paid,
I'm just not gonna
He's
show
the
up to
chair.
any more meetings.
but that one doesn't say the chair gets paid. That one doesn't say the chair gets paid.
We don't have any more meetings anyway. We have our last one already.
And then. Tourism Zone Commission. And that's it.
So right now we're talking about the fire. It seems like everybody's, okay, so we just need a motion to approve that?
Yeah.
So move.
Second.
To be clear, are we saying just the firework, or are we also?
Well, I don't know.
Starting with that,
Tourism.
just so.
That's what the agenda item is.
Should we do that as two separate motions, or is that?
I think you should do them as two separate motions. The motion is to approve, would be to approve the resolution that's in front of you, right? I think to make it clear, so you should probably do the other one by a separate resolution and a different meeting. That's for record keeping purposes. It's easier for us that way.
So there's a motion by Hunt, second by
Wait.
White. All those in favor?
Hi.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then put Tourism Zone Commission on there for discussion.
Now, 9A.
All
Right,
right.
I will.
See you next. Okay, so discussion 9A is agreement between Bertram Communications or Village Broadband. Just give a little history on this project. So, I think it was in the winter time, the Parks, Property and Streets Committee started looking at what it would take to provide fiber optic throughout the village. We had done a survey and we had those survey results. We had been working with Jess Hatch, who is our broadband coordinator in the back. And we surveyed the people, we found out underserved areas. The committee then wanted to do a request for information, so that was sent out to broadband providers to see who would be interested in providing broadband to us. From there, we did a request for proposals. And we had two responses to that. And we ended up interviewing Bertram Communications. Bertram Communications had met with us and then had also done a public information session. We did have some members of the public there. Board members were invited. Allison, I can't remember, did you show up to that one? I remember you being at one of them.
No.
Okay, but it was a great presentation, and after that, the committee had said, yeah, this is the company we want to work with. So, the way it works right now is the maximum cost of the project is $4,258,774. However, Bertram gives us money towards that, so our final maximum cost is $3,275,980. Bertram had told us that if one of our neighboring partners signed on, that price would be reduced. So that's why this is written to say maximum cost. Because Gibraltar has agreed to sign on with Bertram. And I know that another community is talking with them right now. So we're trying to get that price a little lower if we can. So the Parks property, and then the Planning Commission had also discussed the idea of a cell tower to improve reception in the downtown area. So Bertram is looking at that. If we do decide to go with that route, that would be an addendum to the agreement. So we're not going to hold up this agreement for that project. Instead, this one would move forward. Once this has been approved, Bertram and the financing has been given to them, then Bertram will have the project completed start to finish in 18 months. And it would be provided service to every address that we have. They would also bury all of the fiber optics, so we would have nothing overhead, no satellite, nothing like that. It's all underground. Of course, we have a stipulation in there that they can't remove trees for that and they have to restore the site when they go through. I did have Randy look at the agreement. He had one change, to what was put in here. And I forwarded that to Bertram. I have not heard back from Bertram yet on the terms, because I had proposed a quarter down, a quarter when you have so many addresses, another quarter when you have so many addresses. Final, once we're all up and running and we know that, and after your public informational sessions have been provided, because we do require them to provide 2 sessions to the public on internet usage and broadband in general. So this contract in front of you is still pending Bertram's approval. But I'll be honest with you, it's based off of their template. It's just that I revised it to fit our needs. So we're just waiting to hear back on that. But if there are changes, we would run past Randy to make sure that they're legal and that, we're not harmed by the agreement. But we do ask that the board approve it so we can move forward. Tasha has been brainstorming on the financing on it. And I believe we're eligible to apply for a loan on it after August. Is that correct, Tasha?
We can apply for the loan at any time. We just want to make sure that it closes after August so that our first principal payment doesn't occur till 2025. Gives us a little extra time.
But then just more interest accrues.
It's a construction loan, so and it's through the state, it would be through the state. Program.
So the interest is as we do the quarterly polls.
Yeah.
That are in the agreement.
I just have, do we talk now or do we approve first?
No, you can go ahead.
So somebody mentioned to me just going to every single address. A lot of addresses are already served by cable. Do we have to go to every address?
Yeah, we want to go to every address. So every address has access to high-speed internet. Because that property may change. So, and when I say address, I should mean, I believe it's building. So if you have a building that has an address, you're gonna get served. And it's gonna be brought up to your door.
So can they go under the grass or do they cut up the grass on everybody's property?
So they'll go through with a little wheel and trench it, and then they restore all of it. We have it in here that it has to be restored to pre-construction grade, leveled and seeded.
Okay.
So if there's no other questions, we would entertain a motion on this.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I would second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record note that Bell had abstained. Motion carried. Nate?
Thank you. Item 9B, conditional use permit for 1211 Wine Bar.
So this past year, we had passed an ordinance amendment for outdoor entertainment facilities, and this is actually the first conditional use permit that we're processing under that new code. And so 1211 has, they have a wine bar that they frequently have music at. It's on Thursday nights. But they want to do, get approval for an outside entertainment area. And the area that it would be on a patio that is bound by, currently it has some 4x4s, and they run the ropes through there or mark it off as we require. And they would have the music in there. It's, their proposal right now is they play on Thursday nights, that would be out on the patio area. We do have certain standards that we require have to be met in order to get that permit. And as you read, they're all of the bulleted ones that are in your staff report. They'd actually be conditions on the permit. And then hard to read, and it's an outdated map, but the yellow area highlighted on the map is where that actually outdoor entertainment area is located.
I just have one, quick thing in reading through this, the decibel and the noise, thing is already being addressed in here. So that keeps the music, whatever kind of music it is, from being louder than it should be. Why would we have it in here to limit it to easy listening music? Like, why? That's an opinion, like country music might be horrible to some people, it might be easy listening, rock and roll could be quiet. I mean,
Sure.
how do you define easy listening music and make that a standard they have to live up to? Like, I don't understand that point of it.
This came up at planning commission and
Yeah.
we did pull up a definition.
Yeah, so what happened is,
Or
they-
Lightfoot, that song we could play there, yeah.
They offered that it was only, easy listening music or whatever they had, what term they had used. And they said they were not interested in having rock bands or anything like that out there. We had asked them if they would be okay with that as a condition, they said yes. We actually looked up and there was a definition for easy listening and they said, yeah, that's what we are. And we were,
Well, if they're okay with this, that's fine. I
Yeah,
just thought it was a very odd thing for us to put in.
yeah,
If it
it's
was
also a property that we had complaints about noise in the past. I think that was more for weddings, or other events that they had going on there or indoors. I know we had one this week, actually. So it kind of helps keep peace in the neighborhood, I think, and it is what they had committed to.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody else did, but I received, a complaint already.
I have not.
Okay. So, this is from, Bob City, a sheriff's deputy who lives on, Country Lane. And he probably lives a good mile, if not more, from 1211. And he said, "Hi Denise, sorry to even bring this up, and I certainly don't want to be put on the complainer list with the village. I was on my back deck this evening and was shocked how loud the amplified music is coming from the 1211 Town Wine Bar. This is just recorded from my iPhone," and he sent an attachment, which I could not open, so I have not been able to listen to it. "Today about 5 p.m. I'm concerned if I can hear it from my back deck, there is no way that this music volume can be okay. I am a long distance away from this business. There's no way I should be able to hear it like this. From my parents' house on Fieldcrest, it's even more obnoxious. I watched the planning commission meeting when they came in for their permit, and they were saying that the amplification was minimal and specifically acoustical at best. I am confused how this is at all what they said it was going to be. No way is it." This was the same last week too. I didn't say anything thinking that maybe something was just out of whack with the equipment, but it's even louder this week. It is not acceptable and should be addressed somehow. So they don't even have the conditional use permit yet. And 2 weeks in a row, there's issues.
Yeah, I did reach out to them, to Carl and Elizabeth, but it was to ask, to tell them, this was a concern. But it was late in the day when I sent it to them. They may not have even seen it. They're probably getting ready for dinner. Their attorney is here. I don't know if he has any comments on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see it be running to, needs to be forwarded that into us. Kind of, it's last minute.
What's your email?
Bjorn at attorneybjornjohnson.com.
Bjorn at attorneybjornjohnson.com. Sent.
So we have outdoor music in this village. We do. I mean, they're 10 o'clock. I live on the corner of Hill and Trillium, which is pretty far out. In fact, I think I'm the farthest you can be and still be in the village pretty much. I hear music every night on my deck coming from downtown. Sometimes louder because the wind is blowing it that way, right? I haven't written you any notes complaining, it's just a part of our, who we are, unless they're blasting rock and roll music that's louder than we're asking them. People can hear music, they just can't, I think all around, like, you have neighbors that have talked to you, in the past you mentioned, right? If we're gonna allow live music outside in the village, neighbors are going to hear live music outside in the village. That's a given. And what bothers some people doesn't bother other people. And I don't know that we can solve that. Because we have stipulations on how loud it should be and where and when it should stop, that we've all agreed to. And we've said it should be this loud and it should stop him. And if it does, then people are doing what we asked them to do, and it's still not gonna make everybody happy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think part of that is part of the community. I think obviously we have been trying to solve this, I think, for a while. And I think that 1211 is trying to be receptive to it. I don't know if they're not actually allowed to play right now. I think maybe that's another issue to address it. They actually should be waiting for a conditional use permit before they actually play. So that's a separate issue in my opinion. But we hear, I mean, we stop our music at 8 and we hear music from the village for where we live up on top of the hill. And it's just part of living in Sister Bay during the summer. So I agree with Don. I think we can do what we can do. I think we had talked about the decibel meter at one point, probably before I was on the board. And I think every business I've talked to about their live music, including our business, we have decibel readers now. And I think those are being followed. So I don't know if there's a way to ensure that's being enforced, but
1211, did go on by.
they did, okay.
Have I checked it to see if they're in compliance? No, as a matter of fact, this issue first came to my attention today, but I wouldn't have had any to get out there with me. And I'll be honest, I'm not gonna go out there at night. Cause
Sounds like fun.
but sometimes you gotta go home, right?
Yes, Louise.
You know, having a lot of experience with this, with concerts and movies in the park for the last 7 years. You know, decibel readers they're great, and they're a lot of different types, and there's new technology, and typically they're, because we did have a sound tech there for a few years, actually one whole summer. And so I would compare my decibel reader to his, they were within, 0.2 or whatever. And sometimes the kids were playing volleyball, were louder. So a decibel reader certainly isn't an exact science, but I'll give you an interesting story. Last Wednesday night, I didn't have the concert, Ellie did. So Ellie was there with Lou Bickford, who's our board president. And we had a band there that we typically don't have this kind of band, but they did mostly instrumentals. And we live on Westwood, which is by the Baptist church. And a lot of times we can hear huskies. I've never heard the stage. So my husband and I got home from dinner and I got out of the car and I was like, holy. So I called Ellie. I said, you need to turn that, I can hear it. And I taped, I held my phone up so she could hear it. And she said, and she showed me, I FaceTime with her. She showed me the decibel reader. It said 75, but it was a still night. It was still as could be, and there was just whatever for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. I said, okay. And this is me because I don't own a restaurant but we do have some folks very close by that would probably not be very happy. I said, well, just let them know it was they usually play till 9, it was about 8:15. I said, let one more song and then they're done. Let's just do that. And it's so unusual. So unusual. So they were finished and then I heard husky. So, but but I just did it, but not a lot. I don't happen to mind it, but when I heard that, I knew it was ours. That has never happened. But my point is really more about a decibel reader and referring to Bob City's reference to it. Do you know what I mean? It's really hard. Sound is really, really hard. And if they would have held up a decibel reader, that's very likely, depending on where they're standing, where the wind is and stuff, it could have been under 75, It's hard.
He's about a half mile away. I just looked at the GIS to see what it is, and it's rather.
all?
Yeah, it's 2,800 feet.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but it's also kind of a trough line just through there, so. I also think that 1211 said that they would be receptive to criticism or to complaints to try and address it, so I think that we should see how they're gonna act on that. I do know that night, Luis, I could hear husbands inside my house, which was rare. Once in a great while, when it's just the right conditions, which is why that decibel meter is so hard to.
Really, so I thought we're gonna get calls on this.
See, I can't hear your husband.
I can hear us, it's all the time.
But inside my
I
house
hear
is rare.
store, but that's all right.
Outside I hear them, but not
Anyway,
inside.
Do we need to make a motion to approve this conditional use permit? Is that what we're trying to do?
Yeah, that is.
Is there any, I mean, I don't know. Is there any other?
Bjorn,
I was just gonna ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
motion by Cox,
I second that.
second by Shampo, all those in favor,
Aye.
Bye.
opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. Okay, 9C, memorandum of understanding, Wisconsin Election Commission.
Yes, so I don't know if you have questions on what was included in the packet. What it boils down to is the state of Wisconsin is changing the way the absentee ballot envelopes look for elections, which includes making them 3 different colors for the 3 different types of absentee electors that we have in the state. Sister Bay just happens to have a residential care facility, which 17 of the other 18 municipalities in Door County don't have, so the county is no longer going to supply those ballots envelopes to us, and I have to buy our own. So the cost on 1 box of envelopes will be approximately $200, but we can get a grant from the state for $133 to cover that first initial box. I just need to know who you would like to authorize to sign this memorandum so that I can submit it and get our grant.
Should that be you, Heidi?
If you so
I think it
designate.
should be Heidi.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Nate, are you making that motion?
I will make that motion.
Second that.
Motion by Bell, second by Roscoe, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Okay. 9D, liquor license, change of agent for Northern House.
So every year when I send out the liquor license renewal letters and forms, I inform the businesses of who their appointed agents are. It was after the fact here that Northern House, which is the wedding barn facility on Fieldcrest Road, realized that they now qualify to be their own agent and don't need to have anyone else appointed. So Sarah Anderson, the owner of that facility, would like to change her agent to herself. It's a simple process, just an application form that was included in the packet. It's a $10 processing fee. And then I will update their license with her name rather than Mr. Smithhurst's name.
So moved.
Motion by Cox,
A second?
second by Warner, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Okay, 9E, staffing discussion, compliance administrator. So I asked Julie to put this on this month so we can discuss this position that's coming about because of our changes in STR licensing. So I just want to, this should end up going, I believe it should end up going to personnel, but I wanted to get board input before we sent it there. So I guess for this, I'm looking at this as a position that will largely be administrative and will be there to help with zoning. Compliance, I'd say compliance more than enforcement, because ultimately the goal is to get people to comply, not to have to enforce it. So I guess I'm just looking for any other input before I refer this to personnel.
Nate, when you say administrative, what do you mean by that? Because usually a code enforcement officer, they go out, they look at properties, they research codes and laws. They issue compliance letters or violation letters.
I mean, a lot of this is gonna be office work. There's gonna be some that's actually going out there, but a lot of it's going to be maintaining the records and that sort of stuff. That's what I think, but again, we can tell their input.
Because when I think of administrative, I think of more of a clerical type person and,
I may have misused the term.
okay, so you are thinking more administrator, not like code enforcement officer, zoning administrator, something like the county has, but not administrative. Got it. Okay, just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, and then trying to make sure that, you know, there's gonna be times of the year where this position is very busy, and then if it's a full-time year-round position, which I anticipate it will be, you know, we've got 4 to 6 months of time that possibly they could do other resource work that we may need help with. I mean, it doesn't seem like this will be a full-time 12-month year job. But very, very busy during the season when it needs to be busy. So,
Well, with this position
One of the
also
things we
do, they'd also do the other municipal codes, right, like parking?
again. December and January, it's pretty easy to force parking.
Well, there's other things you can do as far as for zoning, you know, that's when you have a slow time, you want to take advantage.
That's what I mean, as long as we have something built into a job description that this person might know they might have other responsibilities that come up during the year.
I also envision this as offloading as much as possible of the STR burden off of Julie and Heidi.
Yeah.
And so that they are able to, because Julie's got better things she can do for us.
And when do the applications, what is that time frame again for the SDR application?
They start March 15th.
Okay, so it's like a March, April job.
May,
June,
March
July.
through August, yeah,
Oh, okay.
I would say July.
Processing
They're slowing down
applications?
right now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're spending a good half a day.
I thought there was a deadline.
There is, it's March 5th, or I'm sorry, they start March 15th and they go till around May 15th. But, for example, this year there were several that we had to keep nagging, are you applying, are you applying? And finally we're like, okay, you're denied. You have to wait until, you know, the new code is in effect. And then even now, I'm still chasing 2 of them right now that just never got the application. And then seeing if they, of course, did they rent when they didn't have a license and.
Okay, so slow periods would be November through mid-November to March.
I think what Julia is saying, that's a slow period for short-term rentals. But there are other codes that require enforcement, and there was other research and things that would require to be done. In the winter months, we typically see a lot of developers coming in and that kind of thing, and so you would have other work now related to short-term rentals.
Right, I'm looking at this position as not only to deal with the STRs, but to enforce all of the villages. Codes that the sheriff's department will not enforce, no matter what time of year that may be. And if this is not a full-time year-round position, that we, to a certain degree, I think, yes, this would take a lot off Julie and Heidi, but I think that we have grown so much that it would behoove us to think about what else could we add on other responsibilities to make it a year-round permanent job.
I mean, I guess in mind, that's a lot of that is zoning. In zoning, I'm gonna call it compliance, because again, my goal is compliance, not to have to enforce it. It's the outcome that I'm looking for. But I think there's a lot of stuff in zoning over the years that we have set up that is not enforced, it's not in compliance with. And some of it needs to change, but some of it is there for a good reason. Well, I would agree wholeheartedly, this should be year round. I also feel like this person should be, if at all possible, within the village.
Absolutely, yeah.
I agree.
They have to live here.
And I think that when we ask people to live in the village, that inevitably means it costs more, as we have all experienced. But not to get too far in the weeds, because that's something the personnel can deal with, but just to say out loud.
Yeah, even in the way, let's talk through this a bit, because even on page 57, if you look at just 56, it says staffing discussion for a compliance administrator. And then it says 57, compliance administrator, and it says hiring staff for code enforcement. So just in just these 2 pages, very little words, it went from what you were just mentioning as compliance to enforcement. So what are we trying to do here, and what do we need this person to do? We have to define that.
So what I think is I'm looking at the outcome, which is compliance. It's if our.
Yeah.
So if we don't have to apply force to get somebody to comply with our ordinances, I think that's the best outcome for everyone.
We need a patient person.
Absolutely.
And this person would process all the short-term rental applications and approve or deny and all of that as well, am I correct?
That's the expectation that I've got.
Yes. Yes, there's some thought that that happens at a county level at some point with some other group though, and that's something we probably should also talk about, to see how we participate with that. I don't recall all the.
Yeah, so
details.
Door County Tourism Zone Commission has. When I've spoke with them previously, they don't have the capacity to accept licenses right now and process them for us, and they really can't right now because we have to make sure the properties are in compliance, we have to make sure they have everything they need to be registered as a license. And then when we finally get to that point where it's just reviewing it to make sure they submitted everything and have all their current licenses, then we're to the point where the tourism zone could do it for us. Provided other municipalities are doing that, because they're not gonna hire someone just for Sister Bay. But if you have, let's say 4 municipalities that are to that point where they just need somebody to make sure everything has been approved and then just process that. At that point, we can go to the Tourism Zone Commission and they would hire somebody for it. So they
But
don't have
there's
the
also
people
a
who are
problem with that too, is that there are a lot of things in our regulations and that we've implemented into the zoning code. And everybody's zoning code is different, and some communities don't even have one, they use the county zone. So I know that there's discussion with the tourism zone on moving in that direction. But I would have to be convinced in the future that that's the path we actually want to take. Because I'm not so sure.
I agree with that.
Right,
But I thought it was
right
a
now.
technical solution. I thought they were talking about they had software that could help us, because we were talking about having to build our own software, and somebody said, well, I think they already have software available or they're already taking steps. I wasn't necessarily talking about a person doing the job, but actually not reinventing a technical solution that might exist.
Oh.
I thought, again,
So-
there's so much, this is so new for everybody. I don't wanna have us spend 25,000 on computer software that's already exists. I do think we need a person locally though for this, so don't,
So
I guess what I'm talking about.
I guess for DCTZ, what I had thought that maybe we could do, and I think there was a little concern because apparently you only apply for DCTZ one time and then it's the license is issued once every 3 years.
No, it is just once.
Okay, so where my head was at on that was saying that we could use them to take in the applications. Because they already have a system for taking that in, and if we can have it so that, if we can make it as straightforward for people to file that, if they're going to one place and they're filling in roughly the same forms, yes, we're gonna have more items that we're gonna have to get from that person. But we can, I know the guys that wrote the forms for DCTZ, I actually asked them if they'd be willing to talk to us, and they would, to see about modifying that to fit for the village. I think that could be an affordable solution. I understand from your perspective, though, Julie, like the back end, I hadn't thought about the licensing, because you're talking about the integration with the accounting side. And that makes it a little stickier, but it may not be impossible. I think it'd be worth having a conversation to see if we can.
Yeah, so the licensing and permitting software that we've been researching is software that is compatible with our accounting system. So it automatically feeds into our accounts and everything like that, versus if somebody else does it, now we've got that transfer, collection, writing the check, depositing. For us, it's smoother to just, the system we're looking at, you plug it in, and if you don't give us what you're supposed to, it's gonna freeze you and say, you don't go any further, you didn't submit your floor plan. So once they get it all submitted, they pay for it, it's gonna shove that money right into our account. And we're gonna get one complete application that we then review. And we haven't seen anywhere else that's not, so I mean, I think it's kind of premature to go to look at that yet, we have to take care of this
Part
first.
of this person's role would be helping to actually get all of that up and running.
Is that fair?
Oh, I'm guessing that would be up and running before they start, but it would
Okay.
be looking them over. Did they submit everything we need, or did they just submit a blank paper to make the
Yeah.
system keep moving forward?
Got it. So is this going to you say personnel to actually work with Julie or Tasha or whoever?
Yeah.
To create the job description and then,
I just know that there was a lot of, this was a very hot button item, and I just wanna make sure we had input. So that we didn't push something back from personnel and say, well, you guys didn't think about this. Sorry.
Then is it going to be, are we gonna get rid of code enforcement and go with compliance administrator then?
Let's just,
Job Title or does that?
we can, well, when we kick it back, we'll put a title on there. I think that there's general consensus that the goal should be compliance on here and not enforcement. Is that? That's what I've heard from at least 3 people.
I don't really care what you call it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the codes are pretty clear on how it works, you know, how many warnings you get and all this other stuff, so. Tell what you want, the codes are. Describe how the process works, and. Your ultimate goal is compliance, like right now, the ultimate goal is compliance, but we do have to do code enforcement to get there sometimes.
We're probably up against time that we need to actually come up with the job description, start interviewing and hiring.
Yeah.
Because I know we have to utilize those fees for this. What's the grace period that we have since we're collecting money, then we actually have to spend it, or?
We won't even get the money till starting next year.
Right.
It doesn't raise until the next.
Yeah, I believe this is a 2024 budget type thing.
Okay,
Yeah, so the fee took effect July 1st.
yeah.
The 1,500.
Yeah.
99.9% were processed under the 500.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got
So we have
time to
time.
build a good job description.
The problem is we want to be able to work with them before
Yeah.
that rush season starts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we had something up and running. In January, that would be good, and we may have, if there's money that we have to expend this year on the software or the programming. It'll be Tasha's favorite thing to do is find us where we're gonna pull that money from. Temporarily, but we do have an undesignated balance fund, so I don't think it's gonna be cool. And it's not gonna be a horrendous amount of money,
No,
the software.
yeah, we're looking at existing vendors, people we work with, having it as part of our existing packages to try and keep that cost down right now.
Yeah.
Cause it isn't budgeted.
Financial report. Question for Tasha.
Tasha, was there anything that, I reviewed it, but anything that you wanted to highlight?
Nope,
Okay,
nothing out of the ordinary.
okay.
And I think you have my report in there and everything. You have the link to the financial, you have the payment report. So,
I have one.
Okay.
That I wanted to bring up, and it may be the right place, maybe not. And, but I know we have the bus that takes people uptown is broken down. And I've heard, it needs to be repaired,
Right.
obviously, and then also, well, it's old and has a lot of miles and it may not be worth repairing. There's an opportunity maybe for us to get a different bus. We have a grant for some of it, et cetera, is knowing that we have one sitting down in Green Bay or somewhere to be fixed, and we don't know how much it's gonna cost for another couple of weeks anyway. We may have a decision, that might be a big decision to make on the bus. Could we talk about that maybe in August as part of the agenda of how what we wanna do, like, it's expensive, I mean, it's a very expensive thing to do, right? You buy a new one. Well. $127,000, yeah,
Well, yeah.
and I know we have a grant for a lot of it.
75,000 is already paid.
Okay,
right, so we have $81,000 either allocated or in grant funds.
so,
The bus we're looking at is, I believe, 129 and change.
Yeah.
And yes, the bus is in for maintenance, scheduled for July 31st.
July 31st. Maintenance or it's, we don't know really what's wrong with it at this point.
I really don't.
Okay. No, I mean, because it looks like by the time, I mean, look, it might be one of those things, by the time it comes back to us, if it's a big number and we don't get it until weeks and weeks from now, you know, maybe do we even go forward with it the rest of the year and fix it if we're gonna buy a new one anyway. I mean, there's gonna be big numbers, and it's an old bus, and the replacement is a big one.
So you just wanna wait till we know what it's gonna.
Yeah, and
cost.
then so we'll
It's
know
like
that by
compared
August, we
to
talk about if we're gonna
block grant.
continue on with it this fall or not, or the rest of the summer, I should say, because I think the fall, it's utilized at Fall Fest.
John?
So are you asking to add that to an agenda? for
I mean,
August?
is it,
Yeah, how are we, like, how is it gonna get fixed and what's the cost gonna be? I think it's a valid question and it's,
I mean, you fix it
Should we
for
buy
like,
a
you
new
fix it
one?
for like a month of service,
yeah,
if it's,
How heavily
Although
is
we-
this bus used?
it's used to.
It's used a lot.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
we see a lot of patrons up, nobody wants to walk. in
Carry
here.
5,000
Right.
people a year,
But
Yeah, it is used a lot. How many people?
5,000.
From 5 until 2 in the morning?
Uh-huh.
And is it every day?
No, it runs on Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Okay.
after Labor Day, it runs Friday, Saturday.
And it runs 2 to 2, right?
It runs, 5 PM until 2 in the morning.
Okay,
And then on Saturdays, we started running a little bit early, Friday, we started running a little bit earlier, but we quit earlier. So
Okay,
it
gotcha.
quits at about midnight. At Fall Festival weekend, we carry 800 people.
Sure.
At Pumpkin Patch, I don't know, because last year was out of service. So Pumpkin Patch, we probably carry about, maybe oftentimes, many of our businesses are busier for Pumpkin Patch weekend than we are all that weekend, believe it or not.
yeah.
So yeah, it helps from a parking perspective, certainly, but, anyway, yeah, it'd be really great if we could take advantage of, and the village generously gave us, the funds that they get from the DVC as reimbursements for their, it's complicated, but anyway, they pay the,
Right,
they paid the DCTC, anyway, for 1 year, they generously gave us their funds, and then we got the CMAQ grant. The CMAQ grant is a grant, we are the only ones in northern Door County, northern Wisconsin that have ever gotten one. Typically, they go to Milwaukee or they go to Madison. So CMAQ is a grant that one gets, a transportation organization gets to mitigate pollution. And so the people that usually get it are people that create pollution. Oddly enough, we get that pollution because it floats up here. And we made a good enough argument, and I did not write the grant, so Par wrote the grant, did a great job, and so we got the grant. So it's 45 grand. That's the good news. The bad news is when you get a federal grant, you have to buy a certain kind of bus from them. The bus that we have to, yeah. So, and that, we got the grant before COVID. The bus that we wanted, which is exactly the bus we have right now, cost $90,000. That bus now costs $129,000. And we must buy it from that site. If we cannot buy a used bus,
it's amazing.
we cannot buy, if you want to use those funds, okay, so we don't use the CMAQ funds, right? We're still in trouble because if that 45 goes away, but we're not gonna save 45 buying a used bus. Do you know what I mean? I've done the math a bunch of different ways, and there's just, unfortunately, no way.
So that's why I just brought it up, just
And by the way, regular bus,
maybe.
not hybrid, not electric bus,
Yep.
300,000.
So consensus to move it, discuss it next month?
Yeah.
In further detail?
Could I ask a question, just out of curiosity, what is the $3,000 on flower pots? Where did those go?
so those are the flower pots that are throughout the village, whether they're in parks or lining Fisher Drive or out in the country walk shops, and they are taken care of by our lovely flower pot ladies.
Awesome, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion to pay the bills. Motion by Cox,
Second.
second by White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item 10, committee appointments. We've had a number of people that are interested in the open positions. I've started talking to a number of people. There's still more people that I've got scheduled to talk to this weekend. I would anticipate having something for Parks and Plan in August. I do know that Julie tells me we need to formalize our committee appointments for Marina and Marina Fest.
Yes, they've been meeting and they have never been appointed, so we need you to appoint them. The members that you would be appointing are Patrick Duffy and Vilius Vasakis would be for Marina Committee, and then Marina Fest is John Blossom, Sue Lundquist, and Mike Scoville, Chuck Hilma, and Chris Hecht.
Okay, so I would move that we say that we should appoint those people. And then the other one I wanted to do is for the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, reappoint Brian Fitzgerald to that. He's got some good expertise on trails and all that, but there are some other individuals that are interested. I still want to talk to. I just want to be able to have a quorum for that committee should we have something come up. So that would be my proposal for appointments for this month.
So then the ones here, because none of those are the ones listed here, right? The interest that was expressed, because I guess I'm wondering, like, what's our criteria, and are we thinking about diversity and thinking about, you know, making sure there's people who have new ideas and whatever.
So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is the difference between some of our committees and some of our board makeup. Because there's a difference between our committees, the demographics of our committees, and it's something that absolutely comes to mind as I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
I am absolutely aware of that. I do feel like if we have to appoint people if they are volunteering, but I do want to try and make sure we're making the best choices and trying to understand that the demographics are different and try and make sure that we're getting other viewpoints.
So Sarah, the reason why you wouldn't see the Marina and Marina Fest on this list is because in May, we talked about appointing them, but then never formally appointed them. So,
Okay.
and then last month that was missed as well. I think we just got busy on other things and missed appointing them again.
Okay,
That's why they're not on this.
okay. Thank
This
you.
list is also, we only advertised for 4 committees in the paper. So
Okay.
this list is only the 4 committees we advertised.
So for Marina Committee and Marina Fest, the people listed here, you said have been attending to these meetings, they just need to be appointed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick, do the non-residents, do the residents carry a little bit more weight with you than the non-residents?
It depends on the committee. I mean, if somebody's got specific expertise, so the committees where non-residents can serve, that's gonna end up going to a committee that is managed by, that is entirely residents. All things being equal, there's a resident and non-resident, yes, I would say the resident's gonna win out, but it rarely happens that everything's equal, but, you know, that's the. I think on Parks and Plan there, that's gotta be a resident, so the other ones are the ancillary committees. It's, like I say, it's going to go to a resident-based committee before it comes to the board. Is there a motion to approve the appointments as presented?
I saw move.
Motion by Shampo,
A second?
second by Warner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Staff reports.
So I'm sorry, we're not voting on any other committees?
Those were that was gonna be Marina Fest, Marina, and then the comprehensive outdoor recreation.
And we're still not looking at the other ones you advertised for?
So I've got meetings set up with people still. I've talked to some of the individuals, some of the audience tonight. Talking through to get Parks and Plan done in August is my plan.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I don't, well,
Staff reports, they are in the packet. Dan might be online in case there's questions, I think. Other than that, they're pretty self-explanatory.
I was going about the DNR canceling the PFAS testing.
Yes,
And-
we had non-detectable results, which is just phenomenal. So they said with with our current water quality that they will, I'm sure we'll do it again, but they were satisfied with our results.
Had we had, was it just like standard water quality testing or was there a reason?
No, that is a little more advanced test. It's actually quite expensive, that they did the entire state. They looked at the results primarily where they had positive results was in industrial areas where, you know, and really, really good water quality up north there.
Thank you.
Dan, I have a handful of questions. Starting on page 76. Number one, the walkthrough on Northwoods and Cherrywood. There were a number of minor deficiencies, two of which have already been taken care of. What kind of deficiencies were these?
That was like, the soil, when they graded it, didn't meet up with the sidewalks. There was a little bit of a drop. There was a ditch line where WPS came through after Dorner, made a big mess. They got it all raked out, re-topsoiled, adjusting valves, hydrants to appropriate grade level. Lot of just minor stuff like that. And by Friday, everything should be done and we should have that project closed out.
Excellent. And then on number 3, reviewing the plans that Robert E. Lee sent you on the 3rd pressure zone for Hillcrest. I know that we touched on it a little bit, either at Plan Commission or Utilities or somewhere. I had a conversation with someone. When I had talked to you probably about a year ago about the CUPAC plan.
Yes.
Are you referencing that? Is Robert E. Lee referencing it?
Not really. Josh, the water engineer, 2017, I think you were working with Mike, kind of, it's not below standards, but the pressure on top of, Hillcrest is below average, minimal. And as we continue to develop up there, I talked to him about, increased, getting the pressure bumped up a little bit. And he came back with a very expensive idea to create a separate pressure zone along Trillium, Hillcrest, and it didn't make sense to me. You'd run a pump constantly, so I just emailed him back, some other options, and I haven't heard back from him yet.
I mean, I have no idea if they received a copy of the CUPAC plan, but I mean, it was a pretty. It was village wide, and there's a lot of information in it, and I guess I don't want Robert E. Lee reinventing the wheel. There's probably information that talks about this in that plan.
Well, Josh said he had worked on this problem before, and it wasn't like he didn't spend a lot of time on it. He just shot me back an estimate to do what he thought could be a solution, but it really wasn't. And currently with our high water usage, well 3 is running all the time. So we're in pretty good shape right now, but I think as we continue to grow, we will need to think of a tank or a booster pump to support even the Willsey property, because that's 30 feet higher than where we currently are. So that's another spot where you're going to have 45, 50 pounds, which is acceptable. But when you get these larger homes in, you're going to want more fire protection. You're going to want more than, 500 gallons a minute. You're going to want to be able to a little higher continuous supply of water.
Sorry, there are no large homes going on the Willsey property.
Okay.
What if we have a lot of small homes that are somewhere around 1,000 square feet or less? Is that?
Yeah, we could take care of that. But when you build six bathrooms and the shower head as big as your laptop, that's a problem.
Oh, no, I don't think any of that's gonna be happening there. Okay. And then on number 7, you talk about the driveway and its turnaround at the village hall. And the exposed electrical wires that we talked about at Parks.
Yes.
It were the control feeder wires to the kiosk in the bathroom.
Yes. That is,
It's all that far away? The village hall? And the wires run all the way to the
No,
restaurant?
the visitor center to the, across from the visitor center to the bathrooms. I can't see it right now because
It's Village Hall, that's why I was confused.
oh, it's the visitor center right along by the bathroom. That's all been reburied, but we need to place it in conduit. That's my mistake. I
Right.
should be the visitor center.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, or Denise, are you still going?
No, I'm done.
Okay, you can keep, okay, on 12. When you say you drove all the village roads and about 50% of the roads needed to be lowered by at least 2 points.
Yes.
What does that mean? Like, what's the impact?
A lot of the roads are rated as good or very good. It's a scale of 1 to 10. We had a lot of 6s and 5s that needed to be dropped down to like 4s and 3s. I mean, for example, Louise is there. I think her road was rated good, and it's not good. It's practically all gravel and falling apart. So I dropped that down to a poor. Just different areas where we have excessive cracking, shouldering. I just really hit everything hard, got out of the truck, looked at areas and everything. We just had way too many good or very good roads, and our roads are not horrible, but they're a lot more fair and poor that need work. And adjusting these ratings, like when we apply for state grants and things, will really benefit us. Having everything being very good is not a good thing, especially when they're not.
Having it be accurate is desirable.
And are any
Correct.
of these being fixed with like Mill Road and some of the budgeting work that we're going through, I'm assuming?
Right,
Okay,
so
all right, thank you.
these Whistler ratings will impact the capital improvement plan
Okay,
and that streets portion, and it will, reorder which roads get done next.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
So if I can just add to that, Dan, so what happens is there's a standard rating procedure that you, or rating system that you use to rate your roads. And in the past, staff that is not in Public Works has rated the roads.
I see.
So they're like, yeah, these roads are great, which means we can't get any money to fix them.
Correct.
So it's finally, we're finally on at that time where we can go out and evaluate them and make a true evaluation based on that rating system. Which means now the roads are accurate. Now we know which ones really are bad, which ones really are good, because they're done by Dan, who knows, who's experienced, more experienced in that. I'm not saying the other people weren't, I'm just saying Dan's more experienced. And then that means we can try and start getting the money for those roads, because before Dan applied for a road that was terrible. And it was like, why would we give you money? This is rated as a great road.
Okay.
So it's fixing a problem.
And the state doesn't see, I'm glad to hear this, and I know Dan's qualified to do this for sure. But it's not a conflict of interest that the village has an employee that says these roads are bad, we need money. And
No.
the state just says, okay, you know what I mean? I mean, in
No,
general, that would be an independent audit, right?
Yeah, it's not, these roads are bad, we need money, it's, you're simply rating your roads for yourself to keep track of them.
So that we
And
can,
then you can apply for grant money, that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get it.
Right. It's our internal rating system.
interesting to me, that's all.
But we did submit for grants with our roads rated as good, and they kind of told, absolutely not,
Yeah.
what's already good, why would we do that?
Yes.
But they were
Correct.
misrated,
No, I like it.
so,
Okay.
yeah, it's,
Makes sense.
for me, this is a
Had
lot
no
of proper
idea
training with
about
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan having the proper training, it's really important.
Yeah, sure.
So there are communities that pay for that service because they don't have the expertise in-house.
Makes sense, yeah.
If you have it, yeah, the state trusts it because they look at who's doing. Well, I shouldn't say that, because they accepted him last time
Yeah.
and like Tasha said, we know this helps us determine which roads move up in the CIP. Which ones, like somebody may be calling and saying, I want you to fix my road. You're
Yeah.
way down here, we got a lot of roads up ahead of you.
Yeah, we could get called about some roads, and look it up, it's rated a 7, well, 7 out of 10 is pretty darn good. And it very much wasn't,
Thank you.
so.
Like with Dan, I just wanted to say, I looked at your striping and that looked really nice down at the waterfront park, and it's being followed. Nobody's parking there.
Yes, I noticed that. I'll let Eric know.
Any other questions on the staff reports? Okay. Go to committee reports. Irving, we don't have anybody at Coastal Byways. I'm still trying to find, as I talk to these people, that will come up too, Julie. I know we're still looking for a citizen on that. DCEDC, we should not be paying that dues until we get that figured out with them. If they invoice us.
But just to recap on that though,
I'm sorry, what is the problem here?
so DCEDC, they have their bylaws which say they appoint, if I remember right, it's 2 people from municipal government. And we used to have one on there and then we didn't really attend. And they moved on and just appointed somebody else from a different municipality. Which I believe, which is what their bylaws allow. And there never was anything that said it had to be a Sister Bay appointment. So I think the position was filled, Nate. But I think she also said they're redoing it and they're gonna be putting up committees. Which might be a better opportunity for us. Just a side note too, on those dues, they're recalculating the formula. We're actually gonna pay less than we were in the past too.
Are I thought we were paying like an amount we decided, but it was $5,000 a year.
It started out as a couple of hundred or 2,500 or something the first year that we
Yeah.
did it, and then increased it for
5 or 6.
Yeah, it's a $5,000 sponsorship or support payment.
So we're a diamond level sponsor, so they're gonna adjust what their sponsorship levels are, or they're.
Michelle told me it's gonna move to population base.
Okay.
But I mean, we would have paid that after the first of the year, wouldn't we have?
We actually haven't because we have not paid 2023 because of this issue.
Oh, okay.
And did they send us an invoice? Cause they didn't have staff. to
I've not
send
seen
out-
one.
Yeah, they didn't have the staff to send out the invoices, so I think they have not gotten.
Yeah.
Money from some people.
Okay. Emergency management has not met, finance committee has not met since the last meeting, we've got quite a few coming up. Fire board?
I would like to have a conversation before we adjourn into closed session about setting up the finance meetings.
That's what 15 was actually, for. That's why I was moving it there,
Okay.
to address the schedule.
Fire board, couple things. Long-term planning, they said the county needs 20 million by 2028 to redo the radios, but I heard this has been talked about before.
So that's what I was emailing you about,
Right.
was so it's $20 million, and do you know how it's going to break down towards the municipalities?
No, and so they talked about. They talked about different ways of doing it, they're not sure.
We have a special meeting coming up next week.
I don't think, oh, it's about a grant, but I don't know if
That's
it's a
about a
grant for that.
grant,
So no, that's still questionable.
Please, as anyone that finds out about this is incredibly important to us. We do not have this funding put aside right now. Please let me know, because I am not hearing about this until too far into it.
Okay.
I think they were almost ready to approve it, and then we started to find out about it. So please let us know.
Yeah,
This is,
so,
I have a feeling this will be quite a big bill.
To give a little bit of background on what that is, this is something that the FCC mandates in this narrow banding, and so they're taking from a wider channel, shrinking it down. I think that it's going to 6.2 kilohertz or something like that right now, so it is not something that is. You cannot do. The
Right.
FCC won't give you frequencies if you don't, so
Right.
it's a federal thing.
It's not
It's being
something we
pushed.
can avoid, but
Yeah.
how the county is gonna set it up and how municipalities are gonna fund it, we have yet to determine.
We'd be
Correct.
very thankful that we've got Chris Heck that's pretty good at getting grants.
and I think, well, I guess everybody has to agree on how it's going to be done. I think one way Chris was trying to avoid doing it was based on property values, whichever, is that doing bonds and listening. Anyway, he was trying to break it up equally among everybody, not do it based on property value. He said we need to replace the Tender 611 ASAP because the engine's emissions are changing in 2026. I think they're looking for additional revenue from the state for that. I don't know if that's something you have.
10 or 11.
Looked
I don't know.
Under 611.
I'm certain it's in the CIP.
He basically wants us to consider to build it into the budget before a budget discussion. So they want an answer for this as soon as possible because the kind of the tender model that they want, they are going to discontinue to make in 2026. And I guess with the specifications they want, the newer model won't have those specifications.
Okay,
So they want to make sure that, to get this approved or not, soon, so they can move forward, because it's going to take approximately 2 years to get it anyway.
Mhm.
But they want to make sure that if they do get approved to get the current model, because they don't want the newer ones, which will be discontinued in 2020.
They got a FEMA grant in 2022 for gas detectors that hopefully are coming in August. And they applied $900,000 in congressional district funding from Tammy Baldwin. She got that money for us to replace engine 8. And there was something else, maybe. Was there anything else you remember?
No, I think these were the two main things, the radio system for 2028, which is still kind of up in the air with other communities. And the main thing was, to try and build into our budget, the replacement of that tender.
okay, do you have any idea how much tender 11 was going to be?
I forgot to write down, was it?
I can contact Chris, that's
7?
okay.
Was it 7?
I don't have a number.
I forgot about the number.
That's
It
okay,
is-
I'll
it
contact
was
Chris.
Over
Not a problem.
700,000, yeah. But yeah, Chris has the number,
Okay,
and I think that's it for fire.
Green tier?
So we have been meeting monthly, and basically where we're at today is kind of taking all of the different priorities. Katie and Julie have been so helpful in kind of catching us all up to speed. We did an exercise yesterday where we were kind of starting to prioritize what is it that we wanna focus on and get across the finish line this year. Coal tar sealants is one of the issues that has been brought up, and there's pretty much unanimous support, so we have a little bit more work to do on that, but we expect to be bringing a recommendation forward for an ordinance, is that right, Julie? An ordinance around protecting or not allowing, prohibiting, thank you, coal tar sealants. So just expect that in the next month or two. And then a lot of, I think, good collaboration with just where some of the development that's happening with the village around, moving buildings and the community garden and some of the conversations with that, making sure that the green tier is supporting some of those conversations and advocating or educating when decisions are made. I think the dark sky lighting was one of the ones that came up. Some good work has happened to approve new lighting. Is it in the village?
Yeah, in the park.
In the
We
park?
talked about night sky, yeah, night
The-
sky, dark sky initiative lighting in the park.
In the park, and that was approved several months ago by the board. Or,
Finance committee approved the funding for it and then it went to parks this past
okay,
month.
parks,
yeah.
okay, and
But
it
it's
was
in
approved,
works.
it's in the works. And so, as we look at what Green Tier's responsibility is, or the purpose of it, it's really to help us educate, right? So continuing to find ways to do that. So basically, there will be more priorities that we'll bring forward. I think the group is excited about some of the things that we have on the docket for 2024. One thing we've talked about is introducing a concept around blue zones as well, which is a national, we're actually going to be getting educated on it, so I'll plan to bring that back when I can speak more eloquently to it. But there are other communities that we're starting to learn from, and there may be other initiatives that we'd recommend for Sister Bay. So just know that there's a lot in the works, and I think by the end of this year, we'll have some really good direction on how Green Tier can help Sister Bay.
Can I just add to that? Sarah?
Absolutely.
This committee has never had a budget, and they did discuss that they do need to have some type of budget to do the marketing and education that they want to. So they talked about a budget of $5,000. So that is something that we will be moving forward with.
Thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate that. So we would, yeah, we'll be making that proposal. Tasha.
Okay.
I just didn't get to the email yet, Tasha.
I think actually we talked about this and I put a sticky note in my file.
Perfect.
Historical Society?
Yes, I met with the Historical Society. At the first Thursday of the month. And they had a couple things going on. Their membership is growing. And they're very, happy about that. John Nelson is their publicity person, and he's brought a lot of publicity to the Chris Crindle market. So they're gearing up for that. It's a big event for them and Sister Bay as a whole. The garden walk this year has been canceled because they didn't have a very good response at all. So they didn't have the garden walk. They hope to bring it back next year. Part of it's because of the drought, I think. They have a new project that they want to do. It's, they're going to designate an exhibit to depict the old Sister Bay school in some way. That's exciting for them and for everybody. Couple things of concern is, their quilt is missing from the Anderson house. And they are concerned about security at the Historical Society. They did have a close call, for theft recently, about some of the antique tools that they were able to hold off that from happening, but they are concerned about security there. That was the big thing. And then, about the farmer's market, their attendance is very low. Their vendors are down substantially. They usually have 7 to 8 vendors, but other years they usually have 12 to 14 vendors. So that's not going that well for them. They're hoping to work with Sister Bay Advancement to maybe beef that up a little bit or get that
Yeah, I
going.
noticed, I was really surprised this year.
Yeah,
I
they're,
went down and I was like, dude,
they're struggling, yeah.
Can they pinpoint a reason, Patrice?
They're trying to figure that out. I mean, they don't know if it's because it's Saturday morning and it's such a busy time for everybody. They don't know if it's competition with the other farmers markets, because there's a farmers market every day, almost, in
Somewhere.
their county, somewhere. Now Ephraim has one on Monday nights. So, yeah, so they're trying to breathe some life into that.
Shouldn't be really expanded theirs this year. When I was,
And isn't there Saturday too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a Saturday. We have like
Bailey's on
140
Sundays.
vendors or something. Yeah.
Part of that is because there's more farmers down
Yeah.
in the southern end of the county and not as many in the northern end for us.
Is the location working? Is it accessible?
I just, yeah, cause I mean, usually the farmers markets are where people are walking.
On off the
Uh,
highway or
Right, off
something.
the highway or
Yeah, that's a
on
good
the
point. I can
street,
bring that up
so
to them.
that doesn't
Maybe they
seem-
might wanna relocate or think, but one thing they wanna do is maybe bring in some possible food trucks. For the farmers market, like just at least offer coffee and like breakfast option or like lunch option.
A lot of
Um,
options for food trucks.
their barn is making great progress. It continues to be worked on and funded. One thing that they're doing new is that they are considering on getting liability insurance for all the board members. They want to protect themselves against lawsuits because of the Chris Kringle market. They're afraid that somebody might fall in the mud or the grass, get hurt, and then sue a board member, and they have no protection right now. So they are talking with insurance agents. They're probably gonna go forward with that and get some insurance to cover themselves. And most importantly, the ice cream social is July 20th. So please go.
Where is it? Is it at?
It's at the Historical Society. I
I
think it's like it, can't remember the time. Don't look it up. Bring the kids.
Library Commission?
So, the biggest, challenge, I'll say, is, just around staffing and the hours of the library, potentially at risk because of the contract or potential contract with the county. This is not, like, we don't have a solution yet, I think.
That's right, so, the town and Tasha and I, and then two people from the town had met with the library and to talk about it. And, the town, if I understand correctly, was not keen on the idea of paying for services they thought the library should be providing.
Correct.
So, and as you know, that's my question right now is if you are a consolidated library and you're supposed to be providing the staffing, why are you asking us for money for staffing? So I have asked Randy for an interpretation on that and have not heard back from him yet. And I have been in contact with Dominic.
Yeah.
I think this week and I think last week as well. So we're still moving it along. It's just going really slow. Trying to make sure that if we are legally obligated to do this, that's one thing versus are they just taking advantage of us?
Fair.
Is the other.
And I do appreciate the diligence. I just putting the library hat on.
Yeah.
Like the end goal is to make sure that we can be a service to the community. And there, hours matter and, we're quite busy. We're one of the busiest libraries in the county. So I appreciate all the work you're doing to solve that contract.
I'm glad you said that because reading the minutes, when the village turned down the LED sign out by the road.
Yeah.
And it comes across like nobody's going to the library and yet next to Sturgeon Bay, Sister Bay is the busiest library. They find us, they know when we're open. I don't think a sign is gonna make a huge bit of difference. They can still look for one in the window, but I mean, I'm just flummoxed by it, I guess.
Esther works there.
Yeah.
I don't like said that Sister Bay turned it down. The library chose to comply with our ordinances and our zoning code, I would say. We didn't say, no, you can't do that. We as heck
I
rules for
said,
everybody
no, I said as plan commission chair, I will not sign the permit.
because it wasn't in compliance with, I'm trying to give you the benefit here, Denise, where we were just trying to equally apply our ordinances
Of
to
course.
everyone.
Of course.
We weren't trying to
What
pick on
other
one.
reason would I have to deny?
Just want to say that.
Okay.
I think that library was very strategically placed and whoever selected that location, I have to say they were a genius because it's within walking distance of so much, which really is a part of your downtown community and helps people get to it.
And it is a really impressively run library. We are so lucky with the people who work there. So if you have time to ever if you stop in and talk with them, they're very passionate about what they do. And they bring a lot of community into Sister Bay. So it's just that a lot of programs that they do and a lot of creativity and just I'm really impressed with the team there. So that's my report.
Marina.
Yeah, the other than normal business discussions there, the one thing I wanted to highlight was the new plan for the building that was distributed in the packet. And I know there's been a couple comments that have already come in to Dave about, well, what if you do this, or what if you do this, or what if you... And so that happened during the meeting as well. When that happens, it doesn't have any impact because poor Dave's sitting there Everybody around the table is firing different ideas at them. Hey, what if we put a bathroom over here? Well, what if we painted the walls green? Well, the thing's not even built. And so what we decided was, look, why don't everybody has a chance to take a look at the plan. And to capture everything in written form and then have a meeting specifically for that, so that people are excited about the building. That was obvious, except everybody has an opinion about the building as well, which is great, but quite frankly, that wasn't the forum for 16 or 20 different ideas coming to Dave about, well, do we need that much room upstairs? What do we have, so anyway, there's gonna be another, we haven't figured it out yet, but I think at the next meeting in August, we're gonna talk about structuring that, so then you have something to look at. I mean, when it comes to, I think it comes to plan or, whatever it comes, right? Doesn't it?
I already got the plan, I already gave Dave my
Yeah.
comments.
No, I know, but you and then about everybody else at the meeting. So, because they even talked about, well, what if we build on part of the park, so we don't want to give up part of the park, so it's all those discussions. It's still fruitless to have those kind of discussions when you first see it, everybody sees it for the first time. So there has to be a more robust meeting for that, because it is a pretty big undertaking.
And I think a very exciting one. When I first read it in the minutes, I called Dave immediately. That must have been last month's or 2 months ago minutes. And because that building is just so bad, so bad. Should never have been remodeled to begin with, but now is the time for total demolition and a major revamp. So it's very exciting, I think.
Yeah, there's some good ideas coming in, Pat, and even your ideas. I mean, you're a voter, right? You had some nice ideas of what happens when it rains, and some different things. So I mean, there's a lot of cool ideas coming in.
So will we
But we
see
need
that?
to capture them.
Will we see the plan once you guys approve it? Like, will it come to the board?
It'll go to
Yes.
plan
Yeah,
commission.
commission.
Okay, and then.
And the board gets something.
It's actually, I
we
think,
will see it?
it's in the, you went to see, it's
I don't know that it'll come to the board.
the Marina packet, it's in the Marina,
We agreed,
Packet.
we were gonna have a public informational session on this too,
Yeah.
right, that's
So
right.
we will see it.
to get feedback, yes.
Okay.
That's really it.
I talked to Dave a little bit about this, and two things that I thought were really important. One, those public bathrooms, and I know that this.
Year-round.
Year-round public bathrooms. And then also the concept of having housing on site. I think that the village, if we are going to ask the businesses in this village to think about what they're going to do for housing their employees, I think that we need to do the same thing. I mean, that may be just my opinion, but I think that's something that we have to consider. And I know there's some caveats, and though there's some problems with that, Don, but I just want to throw my opinion out there.
We did talk about that at the committee, it came up, and so I think it's gonna be an interesting discussion, I'll just leave it at that.
So I had one question, on page 17, it has to do with the boathouse. Some foundation issues have been also recently been discovered in a further conversation on that structure will need to be had. I mean, because I thought they did a bunch of work there. Is this something?
They did on the piers, but when they were digging, they saw some other foundational issues that might compromise the building, not the new piers. Because we're still talking about is there gonna be a museum for the shadow? Is there not? Is the group gonna be raising money for that boat to put in there? Are they not? And nobody had an answer to that.
I mean, this has been
So
going
it
on
could
for
be-
too many years now not to know
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yeah.
So we have an they have an executive session to go over the, engineering reports. on it.
Marina Committee has an executive session? Okay.
Is that an executive session?
I think so. Because we're talking about the foundation.
That's right, correct, yeah.
Because I mean, for it to just fall off the face of the earth and without, the village
Yeah.
prodding and asking, where are you guys? What are you doing? I mean, it's just, it's kind of
Yeah,
ridiculous.
They have to review, what condition is it in?
No, I didn't mean the Marina Committee,
No,
I
I
meant
understand.
the shadow people.
Oh, yeah.
We all assume that may have gone by.
I think Julie was doing one more follow-up with them and then.
Yeah, they had a lot of money to raise and don't know what that happened.
I would be curious to know when that process started. Because I think that question is gonna come up, so when the fundraising first, we'll talk about it at the shadows, I don't know if you can.
That was, I
think it
researched all, I
Years ago.
was gonna say, I researched all that for last year.
Okay.
It's kind of in and out already, so maybe we
Yeah.
can go back in last year's minutes, but I wanna say it was 18
That sounds right.
That sounds, yeah,
when it started.
and then your volunteer committee, Don, Marina Quest.
No, our last meeting we held
Okay.
was May. That was it. We decided the schedule was set and off it goes. So we're not meeting again.
So we can pull that off the list.
Well, no, there's still going to be a meeting after Marina Fest.
After Marina Fest.
But
To
if
see
you
how
are
great we did.
interested on what's happening, donations are coming in. We've collected over $9,000 already in donations.
Right.
I have a record number of vendors participating in the arts and crafts and farmers market area, although it's a lot more arts and crafts than it is farmers market. We just can't seem to get people with produce, which would be ideal. But we're gonna have to expand that area. The committee has decided that they're not gonna require the food vendors to be there on Monday because Monday's attendance is always down. But the vendors will still be there. The arts and crafts folks will still be there on Monday. There is no music on Monday this year at the pavilion. It will be just Saturday and Sunday.
Ad hoc outdoor rec has not met. Large properties and streets.
We met did we meet last week? Yeah.
We did.
That's right, in the kitchen.
Come on.
Utilities or parks? Oh, parks, that was.
So our minutes weren't in here?
No minutes from Michigan. I don't see them.
Okay, I didn't remember. Lots of conversation, 4-hour meeting, I didn't think trying to remember the highlights.
We talked about the wall.
We talked about so many things.
We had a facility.
Oh,
facilities
yeah.
planner.
Allison?
Amanda.
Amanda, okay.
All right.
I got lucky with that.
Mm-hmm.
So Amanda from Ayers came, who is the project manager for the facilities planning. And she had a first rough draft of just a couple of things that she left with Julie. She didn't really present it to us as a committee, and we didn't really dive into it at all. I think she was the two of you were gonna talk back and forth, but I think that unless she comes up with a different one for our next parks meeting, I think we should take a look at that one. And
You'll see a different one.
okay, but I think that there should be time scheduled for us on parks to talk about, okay, so this is draft 2. How does that differ from draft 1? Are they on the right track? It was, I talked to Julie afterwards, the little bit that I did see. And I pushed very hard for Ayers, for us to give them that contract. I'm not impressed yet. So I'm hoping there are greater things to come. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. We talked about a lot of different things in the capital improvement plan. Some things were shot down, some things we're moving forward on.
With the waterfront park, the gazebo, and then there was talk
Gazebo
about the fencing
expansion.
around the restroom there too. And then that, like the stone wall that we want to do,
That we're not going to
that
do.
we're not, that was brought up too.
Yeah,
And the night sky lighting. that
Yeah,
we
night
talked
sky
about.
right, you had mentioned that before.
And then the gazebo benches.
Yep, the benches.
Oh, and
What
Dan
was
was
that?
talking about a new employee, perhaps.
2 employees.
Yeah.
Oh, he has 2 new employees, but maybe even another employee.
Yes, yeah, we have 2 new in parks, and then he was looking at one to help with streets, so he's not doing everything on, so.
But that was gonna be for a budget proposal for next year, right?
For 2024.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Which will personnel will be talking about that, plus finance will be talking about that.
Yep.
I'm not necessarily a
But
big
there
fan
was-
of that at this
I
point in
think we
time.
have to get that through committee yet first, though.
There was the batting cage. Subject at the sports complex.
The
too.
concrete slab
Concrete
being
slab.
put in.
That the village is gonna cover that, 'cause I guess.
Yeah,
What's
kind of
that?
like basically the support for the frame is what
Uh-huh.
we're gonna do, not like a pad.
Okay.
At one time we did want a pad, but now it's, just basically so the batting cage can sit in a mount, so it doesn't get destroyed by the weed eating and the maintenance, so it'll just kind of mount in there and then you can take it out and put it away for the winter.
So a big one was the garbage cans,
Oh, garbage cans, that's right,
that we're gonna put garbage cans through the village.
to the village, yeah.
Well, we don't have a whole lot right now. Or Dan was gonna check to see how many, and I did see that they did put the one on the corner by on deck.
Yeah, that that came from Mitch, right? Or is that his name?
Well, and he was right that we did used to have them all throughout towns, starting at that intersection and then down to Scandia and the highway and
Something that's interesting that you can do in Google Earth is you can actually select the year.
I
So
know.
you can go back and you can look and see what was there. And one thing that's quite sad is the lack of trees. We lost a lot of trees. We should-
Well, and I'm hoping that budget time this year, now that we have the tree inventory done, right? We received the grant
Of the village properties.
of the village properties. That we will be able to budget money now and determine anything else that needs to be removed and plant a whole bunch of trees next year, because we have taken them down saying that, well, we're not gonna plant any till we do the inventory and blah, 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 blah. Well, it's showing. Our community has lost a lot of shade.
If we can think, as silly as this might sound, tree genders. Because that does have a huge impact on pollen and such. Depending on how we choose the trees. I know that came up, I think, 2 years ago at the board. Rob brought it up, I believe.
And it will make the green tier
In
gonna
fact,
be
I was gonna
happy.
say you're speaking my language.
Yeah. So really hope next year that we can budget for quite a few, because they will take forever to grow.
There's one thing I thought of with trees, years ago, someone proposed that trees should be planted when you come down the Little Sister Hill into town on the right and the left. Maples or something should be planted on both sides, and in the future, it would be gorgeous.
Miles Danhausen brought that up years
Yeah.
ago when he was on a committee, and it was cherry trees. His
Whatever
suggestion
kind of
was cherry
trees, yeah,
trees.
yeah, it just trees, but you know, we have. Memorials, we do these benches, they last 10 years and they take them down, and people are always buying a bench for someone that passed away in their family or whatever. Why don't we offer them to buy a tree and we plant the tree, and then there could be a
Great
little
idea.
tiny plaque or something near the tree so that the person is honored that way. That would be perpetual and it would be so gorgeous for Sister Bay, and not this big, you know, fighting over benches and.
That's a really great idea.
you know.
There are-
We-
Do I have too many trees?
We do have that, Patrice.
We do have, you can buy a
Like,
tree, you
adopt
can-
the tree.
and you can put your name,
Yes.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't either.
Yeah.
Get the word
I
out.
did not
That
know
was
either.
secret.
If the board doesn't know, then,
Uh-huh.
you know, we have that.
So is that a green tier or is that a parks?
Parks.
Parks, okay.
Yeah, we need to tell people more about that.
So something,
One thing I was talking to, after the Parks meeting. I was talking to Louise from SVA. About. And she is in the park every single day, hours on end. I swear she lives there. She did not think that. The island in the gazebo with electrical outlets would get utilized. And I think we need to, I think need to have
Yeah, so I know Eric gets a lot of people requesting where to plug stuff in there. Eric.
okay,
And I can see it, I've rented the gazebo quite a few times for birthday parties,
Mhm.
and that is something that I would like there. to-
that you would,
That,
okay.
and, because I recently have done the sports complex, I've rented out, I might need you soon actually. But anyway, I really like that that little area in the sports complex has outlets to plug things in.
Yeah, Eric says we get a lot of requests for it
Mhm.
because Eric had actually talked about that before Parks. He's like, you know, Julie, we should really have it somewhere in there. He was thinking more just along one side instead of the center. But regardless, you know, it was
Yeah.
something I do think we would get
Maybe
use out of.
along-
Okay, well, that's good to know then, that,
Yeah.
you know, you as a user down there would utilize it and people have asked Eric. That's good.
So I think there was a recommendation from Mount Parks to continue investigation of the Northern Door Police Force. Did that come out of that meeting?
There was a
Yes.
mention of that, and, well, cause I just joined on Zoom, and that's when the audio was not very good, so I caught very little of it.
So I guess what I believe is, I think that the board has spoken to that topic. I mean, maybe not exactly there, and I personally don't think that we should keep setting Julie down this path, because I personally don't support that. And I don't think that the majority of the board members do, so. I don't
This-
think that's,
This is, we tried to define that because Julie did say that, you know, I'm not gonna go down this road because the majority of the board doesn't feel this way. But what we were talking about, and that there was a majority of support for, is talking to Liberty Grove and Ephraim. And having discussions about, you know, a Northern Door coalition.
I guess, I don't. From what I picked up at that past meeting, I don't think there's a support for it, so I don't know if we can bring it up at the board next time before we have Julie go down there to have a discussion and actually have an agenda item. But I don't know if we can just have general consensus right now. I mean, I'm one voice. There's 6 other people here. If anybody else has any thoughts on this.
I thought we moved on from it quite.
Yeah,
frankly.
I mean, that's what I commented on the parks meeting too, that I thought that ultimately decided on something, but like I said, I couldn't hear it clearly during the meeting. But I, you know, I was clear that we had already decided on this previously.
So if you want to quash our investigation and information gathering, go ahead, Nick.
I've had some people complain to me that we are not going forward with the police presence. Some residents.
Is the enforcer, which is not the right word, the compliance staff that we just talked about earlier? My impression was that role was gonna help solve for some of the gaps that had and enforcing
Yeah.
code and I don't know if we're using that word right now. But ensuring compliance to code. My understanding was that was really like in the conversation we had with the police when they presented. What we were really trying to solve for was compliance with code. And so then the recommendation was made to go down that path and explore what a staff member would look like to help ensure that codes were, all of that was my impression. So this to me is actually a new topic a little bit. Because what was presented to us was like a 2 hours a day pilot program to see what it would look like if we had police presence in Sister Bay. And that to me is what was shut down last month. What I'm hearing you guys say is a different, I don't know, I'm hearing a different.
It is different.
Okay.
It is different.
I
So,
think
but
I
for
can
the
shed
same
some light on
purpose.
that, so.
Yeah, what is the purpose? Maybe it's my
Yeah, is
question.
it the same?
So with the
purpose?
with the previous board, I had kept them up to date through staff reports. Well, in talking with the Parks Committee and then through staff reports, letting them know that I had been meeting with our neighboring jurisdictions to talk about, Northern Door Policing Unit. And as I had explained to everybody that Gibraltar had said, hey, we're not there yet, we haven't gone through those conversations. If you want, let's just do a pilot program where Ryan can come over, he'll do an extra 2 hours a day to help out and see how it goes in Sister Bay. And then the board shot that down. And during that conversation, there was discussion about, well, maybe do we pay Ryan for his 2 hours that he's there, or when he's coming through in, not 2 hours. Pay Ryan when he's doing calls. It was kind of left like we're no to the 2 hours, but my understanding was there was no further discussion on the other initiatives. So when it came to parks, I said, it was brought up and you can read it in the staff report, but when it was brought up at the board, they had mentioned, possibly paying Gibraltar when they're there. What do you think about that? And there was discussion and the Parks Committee said, well, I think you should go back to exploring the Northern Door Policing Unit. So that's where we're at. And then I know some board members are not too pleased about that, pursuing that, so.
Well, I think maybe to me, it comes back to the purpose of it. And I think that's why I shot down, because it didn't. I
I
didn't
don't really have anything clear.
Yeah, I didn't understand what the purpose of it was.
This is just, this just seems like the same thing, but in
A different way.
in a different way. And I really don't think, if we have already decided on this, that we should continue discussing this if it's the same thing, like we said, just present it in a different way.
I guess what I don't want to do is have Julie go down and explore this if there's not support behind it. If we need to agenda this for the next meeting to do that, I think but if we have clear consensus right now, maybe we don't need to do that. So I don't understand. I think to your point, Lily, I don't know what success looks like with that. I don't know what the goal is. I've talked to a lot of people, Patrice, and I'm hearing people say that we need to have our ordinances enforced, but it's not a law enforcement official. I've heard that. I've talked to a lot of people. I haven't heard anything other than from you and Denise, from citizens that feel like we need a police presence. That's not to say they're not out there, but it's just, I have not heard from them.
Well, that's why I feel like we should try this new staff member to help ensure compliance. And in 6 months, we reevaluate. And if we still need to talk about a police presence.
Yeah, I think there too, if we're going with the compliance officer, the Northern Door Coalition is truly just a police presence. It has nothing to do with the village's codes. Because Liberty Grove, Ephraim, whoever else is in these conversations, probably wouldn't.
They wouldn't learn 4 separate municipal
Right.
codes. It doesn't work.
Right, they'd just be in regular.
So we're just talking about police presence like we had.
So I feel
before.
like I've been the wishy-washy one on this issue. Like I voted I said yes for the 2 hours just to try it out, but what I really want is the enforcement officer. And I think some issues came up at parks, graffiti, vandalism, like somebody punched holes in the drywall of the bathroom, somebody defecated on the parking lot. Things like that, but I don't know if the police person is going to catch those people. I don't know if more cameras on the village property, and then just have the enforcement officer enforcing the things that are bothering the neighbors, like the SVR issues, the parking. So I feel like I'm kind of like the swing vote, and in this case, I would rather stick with the enforcement officer, like Sarah said, see how that goes, and then if that isn't working, or maybe putting some cameras in areas that are getting more graffiti, like Dan said, his crews are scrubbing graffiti every day. I don't know where the graffiti is.
They're not. I actually talked to the park workers myself, and they said there's an instance of graffiti about 3 times a year.
Okay, so
So,
But that is not what they're telling.
yeah, I I know I read, and so I did some interviews, and they told me about 3 times a year. That's when they're cleaning
Well,
graffiti
then
up, and
why,
I
why
and I
is
do
the
walk,
story changing from,
I don't know, maybe, there's a lot of reasons it could. I don't know why people tell different stories to different people, I can't even, maybe they give people, depending on who they are, what they wanna hear. So maybe they thought, oh, Don doesn't wanna know about graffiti, we're gonna tell him it happens 3 times a year, but maybe if we're gonna talk to Julie about it, she might wanna know there's graffiti, and we're gonna tell her. But I walk almost roads every single day, and I've never seen graffiti once in this town. Not
I
once,
don't,
and not
I
saying it's
don't think that having a police
But it-
presence here is going
Yeah,
to
yes.
stop somebody. Or they are going to
No.
catch somebody
No.
vandalizing something or doing anything else like that. I don't know that that's the way I envision, a police presence. I think they are an extension of your community. I think they are out and about walking. They are asked a lot of questions. They're extremely helpful. I think it's great PR. I remember when we had the Northern Door Coalition, when we got that grant that I've talked about before, and, the officers were in all kinds of people's businesses. We got to know them by first name. It was just kind of great camaraderie. They were part of the community. They were out and about. People would talk to them about all sorts of things, a lot of tourist related things, not even, police kinds of things. I just think that it's, I guess I look at it as a great PR thing. And so I'm wondering, those who are so dead set against investigating the Northern Door thing, do you think it's a bad PR thing?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes,
do.
I do.
Why?
I don't,
And-
it's
and we
just
all-
baffling to me that you think it's a good thing, and I'm truly trying to put myself in your shoes. I think it's really the opposite side of it, so as hard as you're having to relate to me, I can appreciate you're not understanding where I'm coming from. I'm struggling to come where you're from. I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to.
No, and that's why I'm
yeah, no.
asking my question.
I just feel like we're creating a crime issue where there isn't one.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
No,
I use those same words
That-
today,
Yeah.
exactly
How
the
do you
same word.
And I had not seen it
Issue.
today.
Perception.
Yeah.
So I don't see this police officer walking through Marina, through the waterfront park. I see them sitting, I see this is what would happen. They'd sit in their car, they'd be a policeman. I mean, it'd be great if they got out there and wandered through all the villages and said hello to the
that's what they're-
children. But I don't
Do that.
That's what
see
they're-
police ever do that.
maybe not the county, but when you hire someone to come into your community,
Do they do
Like-
that?
yes, that's what they were hired to do. It's not that they wouldn't patrol the back streets when we had the coalition 20 years ago, or whenever that was. Yeah, they walked the street.
That was, yes, they did, back in the day, they did, and I think in the 50s and 60s, you could see the guy walking down the street.
This
No,
was
Saying bye to
This is the
everybody.
90s, 90s and 2000s, so.
The point is, that's, what we're describing is,
2008.
Can I make a motion? Am I allowed to do this?
I don't think we're making, this is,
Well, can I make a motion to put this on an agenda in 6 months?
we could do that as a recommendation.
And we pause and we see how this goes with this new position we're talking about hiring.
we probably won't have that person on until January, so it might have to go beyond the 6 months, to
I
be
think
fair,
it's-
because we talked about it.
What was that?
That's,
I
but I'm okay with that.
Okay.
think it's really-
So we don't need a motion, Sarah, we can just, like in 6 months, put it back on. as a
Okay.
recommendation.
That's just a recommendation. But I don't.
Okay, I think that,
Yeah,
is that general consensus?
I mean,
I
yeah,
just wanted to be
I-
clear, so that
Yes,
Yes.
So I think I saw Don and Allison nod their heads, and I think I saw Sarah and Lily. I don't think I saw you, Patrice, and that's okay. I'm just being clear. I'm
I'm not
guessing that-
nodding,
Okay,
but you have consensus.
Yes.
You have a majority, yeah.
okay.
Just to be clear, what we're reviewing in 6 months is a Northern Door Policing Unit participation.
If we should investigate.
But I guess I'll ask this one final question. If the other communities are having conversations now and we're not part of it, just to know, what are they talking about?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Well, that's what we asked Julie to do. That's how that came up at
Yeah,
first.
that's okay.
That's all I was directed to do.
That's all that we asked her to do.
Well,
But
dang,
I
this
think,
sounds
I
like
think
a
this,
confusing one.
I think the reason that it landed with such plop maybe was because we just had talked last month about this, in lieu of that, this other compliance officer, or whatever we want to call it, is gonna be hired to take care of things. And so I'm pretty sure you weren't the only one that thought you heard that. I thought I heard that as well. So we're working to pursue the other, and then the very next month, here we're talking about it again. That's what surprised me.
That's because
Yeah, that's
Parks, it came from Parks.
understood, but I mean, that's,
So
But
where
yeah,
are we
that's
at?
how, we just asked her
Yeah.
to
Is Julie
be
gonna?
part of the conversation and
conversation?
report back to Parks. That's it.
So no action by the board. I'm continued to follow the directive of Parks.
I guess I'm still. I
yeah,
still
you can
don't-
follow Parks direction, just don't bring it to the board. I mean, honestly, isn't that what we're saying then?
I don't know
Yeah,
what you're
that's-
saying.
that's-
I just want to know what I'm supposed to do.
I'm,
So
if we're going to continue exploring this item, I mean, we're. In my opinion, we're saying we support this idea. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think we should continue exploring this.
Well, if the other communities, Ephraim, Gibraltar, Liberty Grove, are pursuing this, exploring this, I think Sister Bay needs to get involved. We're the ones with the most people here. In the summer, our population is exploding. We have a brand new campground off of 57 at Dovetail, full of people, all these STR people.
Liberty Grove has got a campground.
Yeah, I mean, or Liberty Grove, but it's very close to Sister Bay. It just seems to make sense to me. Why wouldn't Sister Bay want a police presence with all these tons more people here and more businesses, and we're growing, it just, and then the other surrounding communities are looking into this as well.
Right, Bailey's Harbor's had a constable for decades.
Yeah.
Gibraltar's put one
They have
on.
one, yeah, they have one.
You asked Bailey's Harbor what they.
Actual police force.
Yes, they 1.5.
Okay, could we?
So
They have one what?
again,
1.5.
where are we at? Do we want Julie to continue investigating this or not? General consensus?
Yes,
There-
I mean, I would like to understand, I guess, what others are doing, but I'm not saying, like, I still don't understand the purpose. So I'm not saying I'm supportive of moving forward, I'm just, it's, yeah, like, yeah, we should be talking to all of the other villages about everything that they're doing, because we're all in this together. So, like, does that help you? That's not. I mean, I hope you have a relationship with all of.
Yeah, to
administrators.
me, it's education. I'm researching, I'm finding out what people are doing. I do not take it as a commitment to proceed.
No,
I view it
Parks
as
isn't
getting
saying that either.
information at this point.
And then
And it could
this,
be 2 years before there's a proposal,
and this proposal would eventually come to the board.
if there was a recommendation. If something came out of it, it would start in Parks, and then Parks would make a recommendation to the board.
So we have consensus that Julie should explore this. Is that, Allison, you're
She's
the,
gathering information.
I think it's okay for her to gather
Okay.
information.
so
And if
that's,
it's 2 years when they come up with something, we'll have 6 months or so at least, hopefully with our enforcement person. And then it won't even have to come to the board if the enforcement person is doing everything they should.
so can I ask for one thing, Julie?
Sure.
Just say, I'm just gathering information at those meetings.
Be really clear, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, I think that message is pretty clear. Just
Okay.
that I would specify that. They know that that our board does not support that at this moment, and it's just talking, seeing where it goes. I mean, I'm huge on intergovernmental cooperation, as you know, that we've looked at the trail, we're talking things. I have meetings with my fellow partners and I will continue to have that. I view that as part of my job, is to have a good relationship with them, knowing what they're working on. And this is just part of it, in my opinion.
Okay, so this isn't going to end up coming as an agreement with a Northern Guard, it's just exploratory at this point.
At this point, exploratory, I'm not saying that maybe in 2 years that doesn't change, or a year, Nate, but
Yeah.
it would come back.
Do you feel like you have a clear direction?
Yeah.
Good.
She was hesitant to take the parks directive at last week's meeting, and we said, we really want you to continue
I
to
wasn't
learn.
I wasn't trying to go behind the board's back. It was very clear. And I thought the committee was clear that I would just continue to explore this with them. That was my
I guess
understanding
we
of the
didn't get much
directive.
of it, so we weren't even gonna mention it as part of the Parks and
I
Minutes.
guess
You're the one who brought it up.
I absolutely.
We did
I
just
mean,
one
because
day,
so,
think about
so
it.
Julie gave me a weekly summary, hey, this is what's going on, because I acknowledge that I just need to make sure I'm communicating with Julie effectively. And that's where it came up, and there was a conversation, and then Julie said, look, I need direction, you need to, like, if you need, I need to know what I'm supposed to do here. And that's why we're discussing it now. I think that ultimately we're in the same places where we started, but we had a conversation about it. So let's move on to personnel. I think we've got an item coming up here in close.
Yeah.
Planning Commission.
Does anybody have any questions on the minutes that are in there? And Julie, when on page 25 of the, which are the minutes for Plan Commission. On line 43, this is where I got the information from and how I got confused. It said the Plan Commission members indicated that they believe the moratorium should be imposed as soon as possible, and therefore Schmelzer indicated that she will see that this issue is added to the agenda for the next meeting of the village board that is scheduled for Tuesday, July 18th.
I don't know why that would have been like that.
Okay,
Because-
because then that has to be changed in the minutes.
I'll make sure that's changed. Yeah, because I know moratoriums need a public hearing and they have to go back to the plan commission. So I think that's just an error.
Okay.
I'll have her fix it.
Thank you.
Okay, SBA. It was a
Yeah,
month
I
ago.
mean, yeah. Louis just sent the June board minute meeting this morning. Quite frankly, I got them at 8 o'clock this morning. I haven't had a chance to even review those, but. It wasn't much last week or last month. Tomorrow morning, I've got another meeting at 8 o'clock with them, so. There's, yeah. Nothing to report. I was saying, why did I just say that to begin with?
Tourism zone. Do they meet again in
Thursday.
Thursday? Okay. Utilities.
Minutes are in the packet, not a very long meeting. Does anybody have any questions?
Village Hall? Village Hall?
We're meeting on the 17th with to review the RFPs. There's 2 of them that came in.
Okay. Do we have a motion that we accept the committee reports?
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. President's report. So I had Julie put this on here so I can just talk about something. I'm going to keep it brief. Someplace I spent a lot of time in the village is the waterfront park. And we talk a lot about the village's problems, and I wanted to illustrate one of the great things the village has done over the years and name a couple people that made that happen. One of them was in the room right now. So we've got Ken Church, Peter Trenchard, Sharon Dorschen, Andrew Knocker, and Denise Burgo made a gamble a long time ago. Denise, I'm sure I missed some people who were part of that. on a very bold move on that waterfront park. And that's really turned out wonderful for us. And I think that we need to remember that that was something that was very unpopular, not very unpopular, it was very controversial at the time. But wow, did it ever turn out? Whenever I need to meet somebody in the village, that's where I want to have them go. I met a reporter from Channel 26 and I said, I want to meet you in the waterfront park. We get a chance to walk through there, so. Denise, you're still here.
Yeah, thank you.
I did
Thank
some-
you for that.
You did some digging for those names.
I did, but I wanted to make sure.
You mentioned that, and she'll appreciate.
Nate, I would like to add, way back, my dad talked to the people that own the waterfront cottages, which is now Waterfront Park. He talked them into selling it to the village. So that was his idea.
Actually, I would like to see a historical marker there commemorating the fact that the Roser family donated that part of that land. So, and just keep going.
So, you know, he got the ball rolling and Denise did a fantastic job with all those people you mentioned, getting that all going.
Yeah, so that's really all I had here. I guess the other thing I should mention is I've been doing these local conversations down at Waterfront Park. Just talking about housing, transportation, all that. I do them once a month on a Sunday morning or Sunday at noon at Waterfront Park. I'd encourage anybody to come down there, understanding that if we have too many trustees or people on the plan commission, that we have to send somebody away, but, you know.
I will never be there.
I can come to you, Denise, if you want. We can spend a half an hour there before I go there. I'd be happy to if you want it.
No, I have a job to do.
So, yeah, there's that. And then also another thing that I'm working on from that is one of the suggestions that is, you should get together and have conversations with the other municipal leaders. So I'm working with Dave Elliott and I are working on getting a meeting. We're shooting to do it quarterly, but we're gonna start with just one of the village presidents and town chairmen from Jacksonport and Egg Harbor North. So we've got to reach out to some folks. That's something we're looking to do. One of the issues we want to talk about is transportation, but we're kind of letting that, whatever comes up, comes up. So that's all I've got for now.
Jacksonport, Egg Harbor North, you said?
Not that we wouldn't engage people from south of there, but you have to draw a line at some point.
Right.
And since Miles is there, you can't leave out town of Egg Harbor.
Does anybody know here why at the beach, Nate, there's all this natural weeds and stuff growing? Like after the sand, so it makes the beach area actually smaller? Is that like an environmental thing?
It is.
It's to filter the water as it goes down to the beach. It was when we
Okay.
had to put in there the DNR. I think that was part of the Knowles Nelson's grant that they made us have it there. I think at this point we could tear it out, but it's doing a pretty good function of filtering that water before it goes into the.
That's good to know. I mean, you know,
You can't do that.
just ask.
Parks has actually looked at it and talked about it. Cause, some people that don't like it because it was overgrown with weeds, it's actually part of your stormwater management plan for the pavilion. We're required to have that in there. We did have somebody go out last year and it's because it has not been maintained in the past. So we had a guy go out there last year. He had killed a lot of them. He had, and then recommended we burn them in spring, but.
Invasive species.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And yeah, the invasive species that were in there. He had recommended we burn it to get rid of the invasive species and get new growth, but based on the dry spring, we weren't able to do that. So he took a lot of them out by hand. And in spring, in fall, he's gonna continue to come back and maintain it. So we're on a schedule right now with someone who is trying to bring it back to life.
So it'll be more attractive because it's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
So when it was first put in there, I was told that we could take it out after a year, but now because we got it as part of another. Stormwater management, now we have to keep it.
Yeah, I don't know, Nate. We'd have to look at that
I
because it
don't-
was part of this. We'd have to.
I don't think it's something we really need to explore, but I'm just,
Yeah.
it's something that was mentioned to me, because when the plans came up. It was, do I remember that right?
I do.
You said that, okay, we have to have this now, but we can take it out in a year or two.
Yeah. We were told that.
But at the same point, that makes the water that comes out of the park filtered, and now it's cleaner for the bay.
Yeah,
I'm sure Green Tier would be honest if we tried to do that.
Well, and invasive species is on our list to talk about separate.
But we
issue.
also have. It depends on where our stormwater is going in that area, because, and I can't remember. Where a stormwater drain is over there. Because if most of the stuff is coming from the parking lot going into the storm drain, which is going into the vortex. That's way more important, and that's what's filtering our water more than anything. If it's not going into the vortex. And depending upon where that drain is, then that's a different story, than it is doing something good, for stormwater. But
Yeah,
it's
it's filtering the surface runoff. Is what it's doing, is the water coming across the top is coming through there.
But there is a reason, Patrice, it wasn't just arbitrarily put there. Started out because the people in Madison made us do it.
It's like the big stormwater pond off of over by Ava Hole. But mini version.
And there's already a park around it. Okay, then I had 15 moved ahead, executive session. Julie wanted us to talk about scheduling, and I know you want to talk about scheduling too, and talk about the same thing.
Yeah, we really have to get our budget schedule down. So the way it works is. There's laws about when you have the public hearings published and all of this stuff. So you start with your end date and you work backwards. And we're pushing up on when those meetings have to be scheduled right now. Tasha had reached out, I think it was May 6th or around that time. And didn't hear back from everybody. So now we're 2 months in saying, how are we gonna make our deadline? So we, because we didn't hear back from everyone, I said, you know what? Let's put together a schedule, push it out, we'll get some reaction, and we can at least get moving forward on this. And so that's where we are, we got some reaction. So let's talk about and hammer out a schedule right now if we can, Denise, unless you had something different in
It's gonna
mind.
be impossible for me to hammer out a schedule right now. I didn't bring my other calendars. I have this one. I already accepted the ones that she sent the first time. And I accepted the ones the second time. I'm not gonna do this the third time.
Yeah, and I
So-
moved everything around my entire
That-
travel for work.
There's no way
I
this is gonna
agree.
be a working session that sets schedules. We all have emails. Let's respond. Let's look at them. We're all mature adults. Let's
Agree.
do our jobs. This is not gonna be a great session.
So
So tell me when you want me to be there. And I'll do my best. At this point, this is number 3.
So the concern I had was the last meeting, and that was the stack meetings. And that's just something I've always been opposed to, that's putting meetings back to back. Other than that, I mean, the schedule was the schedule, but Denise, what? What are you
Well,
looking at?
from my understanding, nothing had been set. And then I got this, from Julie talking about, didn't receive many responses, we have to get it scheduled. We developed this below, which we will anticipate will work for those involved, please add this to your calendars. And if this is what everybody has accepted for all those committees, that's fine.
That was the direction, and I came back even with answers. I said, do I need to replace the ones I've already accepted? And I was told yes, so I replaced the ones I've already accepted. I scheduled my other stuff that I have commitments for. Assuming that this was it. Because, and if it's not. Come up with a schedule and send us another one of those.
So the problem is we're trying to come up with a schedule.
Yeah.
And I'm getting response from you, Don, but I'm not necessarily getting positive responses from anyone else. And by positive responses, I mean, yes, I can make those meetings, or I'm getting a lot of. I don't like that timing, okay, so let's move it, or I don't like this timing, okay. That's why we're all in a room. We need to come up with a schedule so that it's. Because there are 2 meetings that everybody has to attend in order to get this budget passed. One of them has to be a special board meeting because your November board meeting is past the 15th of November. And that puts us really late on the tax bills if we wait that long. So
So what are the two?
typically, we have run a special board meeting in November. We didn't last year because November 15th was the board meeting.
What are the two meetings that we all have to attend that are mandatory for everybody?
And I apologize, why, like, so August 17th was the original. So why did all of that get shaken up, the first pass? Cause those are the ones I still have.
So
August 17th is the Board of
Oh, that's
Review. That's
Board of
completely
Review.
different from
Okay,
budget.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
okay.
I got that one.
That was Board of Review. And I don't think I responded because I didn't. Think.
Right, Allison, you're not on finance, so, other than the board meeting and the special board meeting.
Those are the two that.
So if we can start with the special board meeting in November and work our way back, that would be, that would be the
you're
appreciated thing.
talking the doodle, right?
Well, I sent out a doodle invite and I only got one person to respond, so I don't, I'm trying, folks.
Did you?
I mean, I really am trying to get everybody on the same page, and right now I'm between finance and personnel, I'm working with 4 people, and then also trying to get on the entire board's calendar.
So I appreciate the opportunity to sit here and do this calendar together tonight. We need to sit here and do it. Let's do it. Sorry, I was upset about it, but this is really number 3 for me. And I don't have my other calendar.
Can we set a special board meeting for November 7th?
Can we, yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
at 6 P.M.
It's in my calendar.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be the public hearing and the adoption of the budget on the same night.
So I'm seeing on a calendar here, election day, November 7th.
There is no election this year.
No, this year, okay.
Heidi can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're
I'm
correct.
pretty sure I checked that same thing with her.
It doesn't.
So we have the village board meeting
Okay.
special, it's already on.
So October 20th would be the publication of the notice. You guys don't have to worry about that. That's for me.
Okay.
That's not a meeting. October 17th is the normal board meeting,
so
and
if
this is
we're-
the one that Nate
If we're not
has
here, what
an issue
happens?
with piggybacking.
So if we're not here, what happens? You can't call into these.
What do you, sorry,
Can you go Zoom?
Yeah, can you zoom in?
well, it would be a full board meeting like this.
What else is happening on the
We
17th?
can, okay.
It's the full October board meeting.
Right, you said it's piggybacking with what?
Right, I had hoped to do a budget workshop so that the entire board would be able to see the budget and hash out any issues before you have a public hearing about it before you publish it.
So would that be during, you're saying, but that was gonna be a separate meeting from the board?
I said you could do it during, and on here it says you could hold it during. But you're talking, you're giving 30 to 45 minutes of your board meeting to the budget. Or you can start it a little bit earlier and have 30 minutes of dedicated 5:30 time of just budget workshop before you get to the rest of your meeting.
Let's dedicate part of our meeting to that. I mean,
So dedicate part of the 6 o'clock meeting
yeah,
to,
let's
so
adjust,
keep it at 6 and.
adjust the agenda accordingly if at all possible.
So don't stack them, instead just put it all as one?
Yeah, just put it all as one. I guess what I had thought was looking at it was gonna be a finance meeting ahead of that. So that's what my misunderstanding on.
No, it's a full village board.
Then that's not stacking, that's just making a long meeting. That's different.
Nate, can we start it earlier though?
Yeah,
at
we can start it
5:30?
at 5:30. Which one?
Sometime in
October 17th.
That, right,
Yeah, I mean, if everybody else wants to start at 5:30 for this one, that,
I like that idea, but I don't know what everybody else wants to do.
And the other ones, to be sure, like September 21st, September 28th, those are actually pure finance meetings. To talk about the budget, not the full board.
right.
I have
In the finance committee.
A bunch of other ones that I accepted too. Okay.
So
got it.
you're saying you only need the finance committee at those.
Yeah, but there's a there's
the
a
personnel
personnel
at the
requirement, so
personnel.
there's also,
Just
Yeah.
at the finance personnel.
Yeah, I think I put 2 meetings where it's, one is personnel and one is finance personnel.
yeah. So the 2 that were on here were,
So you
We're fine.
need to replace me on
Personal
finance.
okay,
Because I cannot make a 7 to 8:30 meeting. And I'm not going to hold up. I just am not capable of that.
okay. I know who my next pick is for the committee then, but I don't know if I can do
I
that.
don't know, but I can't, can we do other, can we make different times?
Schedule.
We don't have to do it 7 to 8:30 unless that's the only time. That you
That's,
can do it.
that's when I can do.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
That's tough for staff. I have to tell you.
I'm willing to do morning meetings, Wednesday nights are great, fine, too.
Can we do a Wednesday at 6? Does that work for you, Denise? Don,
Yes,
Wednesday at 6?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so instead of October 12th at 7:30, October 11th for finance at 6.
She meant the 21st. She meant October 21st, right, Denise? Or
September.
Natasha?
No,
September.
11th. I'm talking about October 11th, working backwards.
I'm
October
sorry.
11th.
I have the wrong calendar open.
Over 11.
October 11th,
Yeah, it's good.
6 to 8 p.m.
okay,
Because it was the 12th.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Denise?
yeah,
Okay.
Wednesday's fine at 6. I will be coming directly from work.
These are all Zoom.
Oh, there's Zoom?
The finance are Zoom.
Okay,
We talked about that at the last finance committee meeting.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to follow somebody when you're,
So the
Just follow the
12th,
spreadsheet
so
with your
October 12th
screen
moves to
capture.
October 11th. That's
Yeah.
6, got it.
So one of the things that distraught me a little bit with this schedule was not necessarily the dates, but it was the restrictiveness of the time. Budget is probably the most important thing that we do as a committee and adopt as a board. And to schedule this small amount of meetings for an hour and a half with a hard stop, I don't believe is giving the budget, the justice, to go through it thoroughly, to ask all the questions. I ask a lot of questions. A lot of questions, and I'm good at finance. Don said so, right?
so
So,
if we have a 6 o'clock, we don't have a hard stop.
okay, thank you.
I think if we can schedule 3 finance meetings and a finance personnel meeting, that should cover it. Plus a budget workshop session, we should be golden. We may not even need that October 11th meeting.
But, okay, so September 21st and 28th.
Can we keep
both
working
Thursdays.
backwards?
Gosh, I'm just gonna trust you. You're gonna send me invitations on these.
Yes, we can
I'm
work.
not gonna write it down. I'm just trusting you.
Okay. October 4th. Can we do a finance meeting, 6 to 8 or 6?
October 4th.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Let's say 6 to 8, but understanding that that 8's a soft date.
October. Doesn't matter. I was gonna ask, is this a finance or a finance personnel? Honestly, doesn't matter to me because
You're on both.
Yeah.
That is probably Sarah, that's probably a finance personnel
4th.
on the
Yep,
board.
I'm
Okay.
looking.
Let's call it F and P.
I will make it work.
Thank you.
Do we have an asterisk next to these so we can pay for this? Kidding,
Mhm.
kidding.
This is where you earn the big bucks.
Yeah. She gets to get the finance and personnel. She could double her.
We can be in the meetings just right, Don.
September 27th,
Yes.
that would be finance only.
Well, for finance only, do we want to still do that 6 or is that hard on?
Yeah, 6.
You said personnel only or finance only?
Finance
Okay,
only.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, now I think the last finance one would be September 20th.
Yeah, Wednesday, 26th. Yeah, all Zoom, which is gonna be very good.
And then Sarah, that we're keeping August 28th. Personnel only.
I am gonna make it work.
Wait a minute.
You had, all the personnel had agreed to that meeting. Everyone who was on personnel
28,
had
you
agreed
said?
to that one.
Yeah.
On the 28th,
Okay.
from 6 to 8 p.m.
All right, okay.
So I'm hoping that one still stands.
Let's do it.
Yeah, 28, yeah.
Okay,
It's 28.
thank you.
Tasha,
Yes,
anything that's on a large spreadsheet,
yeah, you would like a printout of,
yes, please.
gotcha. If I forget.
Can we just get you like a 42-inch screen? Then you'll have that all the time. It'll be so much better for the environment and probably cheaper.
It's 5 pages of paper. You don't know. what
Alright,
it would
that's fine,
cost to
meeting.
Recycle.
Tasha, you'll send out
32
calendar
screen.
invites.
Yes,
Probably
now I will
tomorrow,
send
day
out
after.
calendar invites, I will delete anything else that's out there.
Let's call them calendar decrees this time. They're not invites.
And obviously,
Tasha
Tasha,
decrees.
the 20th is just an FYI to us, nothing.
Right, that is just an FYI, that's when it will be published in the newspaper.
Okay.
Do we need a finance meeting before that?
We have one.
Can't believe you just asked that question.
Well, it's better to ask it now while we got you in calendar mode, Don.
You know,
I don't wanna get you cranky again and just take you out of
I
calendar.
just wrote. I just
Typically,
wrote
we have
one down.
not.
I just wrote one.
Do you want to set a? I mean, we know that there's assessment and reval, and then it's,
I guess what I'm saying, is there anything else we need to do ahead of the budget process? That we may not want to stick into the budget process meeting? I think that we've got one item that's floating out there for finance. Paul Anschutz.
She still hasn't gotten us an invoice though.
oh, I was like, I don't even know what this segment is that I do.
I told her after the last meeting, she never followed up and got us an invoice. So.
That's-
I thought that was voted on and approved, and we simply have to wait for the invoice.
It's supposed to go to finance, I think, to have the,
Is
that
it?
was what I believe the
Yeah.
directive was.
Okay.
And then, so this, the 17th is the one we're talking about, that's just the assessors.
That is board of review, yes.
That's it.
So who is not gonna be here for board of review? I'm not here.
All right, I'm
Thank
chairing.
you. Hmm?
I was asked to chair it, or whatever.
No,
Yeah, I was,
Yeah, I asked him because you were not available.
so
I have other ideas.
Sarah could do it, I'm
I
okay
think
with that.
Sarah would be better at it than you would, Don.
Well, you know what, you're probably right, okay, I can't even argue there.
Not gonna fight you for it.
Although.
Did you do the training, Sarah?
It's-
No.
Sarah didn't.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's on it, there's a video.
Yeah, there's
Vacation.
board of review training.
And you
That is-
participated in board of review last year, Don, so
Oh.
you have the most experience of anyone who's sitting on the board of review.
We showed up last year, so.
People are gonna show up this year.
Yes, they-
I-
Yeah, I'm showing up, so I mean, that's.
I've already heard from some people somewhere out there.
No,
Sure. Then I.
They talking about-
said I.
You know what, yeah, I'm,
I will bring.
Part of
Do you want a finance meeting to
Yeah, just so I.
take a look at the big picture after board review and say, like, these are our budget goals, so we can kind of, rather than destroy the budget the first time we meet, we can kind of tailor it a little bit.
What do you think, Josh? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think? that's-
Normally, I would say it's not necessary, but this is a huge change. I mean, this is massive, could be massive. So, yeah, it could be worth an hour or half an hour of discussion of, this is what we have, this is what this means, where do we want this to go?
Yeah, but we should already know what the number is, not saying that something might not change at Board of Review,
Sure.
but what is Sister Ray's number? What did DOR come up with?
Well, so. It's about $903 million. That's a big change from 482. So, I mean, that is why I'm saying, I don't want staff to prepare a budget and then we bring it to finance and we go, nope, that's not what we wanna do, and throw it all out. I don't wanna get that far in the process.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That we'll have the final number after Board of Review.
And it might be, it's just like a goal setting session for a budget of maybe in a half hour to an hour to understand what this assessment means, what this means tax implication wise, where we're at CIP, kind of understand the bigger items that are in it that make it, that are the biggest moving pieces. Can we find
Yeah,
an hour? That week between the 20th, or 2 weeks between the 21st and September 1st, of August 21st and September 1st.
Between August 17th and September 20th, is that what you said?
Well, yeah, let's go August 21st to September 1st.
And this is just finance.
It would just be finance. To set some goals.
Okay, there's 5 weeks in August. What about, August 28th on a Monday?
That's when we have finance and personnel. Unless,
Oh,
or that's when we have personnel, not finance and personnel, sorry,
that's just personnel.
yeah.
What about that Wednesday?
that 30th? That's okay.
The 30th at 6 to 7.
Do you have that on your calendar?
Okay, yeah, so calendar. Would be,
I mean, something that I'm just gonna ask you right now, Tasha, that you can. You'll be able to punch in 30 seconds, have an answer.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're gonna ask.
Okay, then just do it.
How much is that if we change nothing in the mill rate? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Okay.
What is if we stick at the 903?
Mhm.
Okay, to keep somebody's let's say they paid $1,000 last year.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the mill rate? For,
What does it drop to?
what does it drop to? And overall, what does that mean money wise for the village? That's gonna be my first question.
Well-
You can come to the meeting with that answer.
Okay, so. Money wise for the village, if you do,
I don't need to know the answer now.
no, I can tell you.
Oh, okay.
I've already run a lot of this numbers. If you. Do not increase taxes. Tax revenue, I don't wanna say taxes, do not increase tax revenue for the village whatsoever, so if you stay exactly where you were last year. It makes the mill rate from $6.23 per thousand to about $3.08 per thousand. Sounds good, but. Right, there's a lot of change. If. That's, what is that, is it about $3.01 million in tax revenue?
And so what was our levy last year?
3.01, that would be if you did no more tax revenue.
Thank you.
That was very silent.
awesome.
Okay. You good, Tasha?
That's
Okay. We should, I'll make a motion that we move into executive session. We'll call vote. Val, yes.
Wait a minute, I need a second.
Oh, sorry.
second.
Second by Cox. Val, yes.
Gerardo, yes.
Warner, yes.
Cox, yes.
Shampoo, yes.
White, yes.
Roscoe, yeah.
We're in executive session.